I don't wanna die young. I don't wanna die old. I just want people to listen to the song that I wrote. I wanna leave town. I don't wanna leave home. I wanna be with my dog when her breathing gets slow. I don't wanna cry, not in front of you. I just wanna hear you say that you love me too. Die young. I just want the people I like to like who I was. Diane, why'd you have to go? An archetype of loneliness, or so it goes. Was it the way you scrunched up your nose? Diane, Diane, the time that we had together, it goes to show. Count your blessings, and there they go. Would be different, but you proved me wrong. How was I to know you were living in the moment? If you couldn't tell me so. To keep you from leaving the home. Whoa, 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 I don't wanna be alone. But if that's what you have to do, then go.
Hi, chat. Hello, Jake. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Hello. Hi. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? God, I'm struggling with body dysmorphia bad today.
Hi, Nikki.
I saw a TikTok earlier. I want to tell you the story. It's fine, like I'm fine, but like I saw a TikTok earlier, and it was this person that made me prettier by photoshopping in my waist and like put a before and after picture, and I was like And that did not help with my body dysmorphia, so I'm struggling with it today. I'm gonna try and push through it though. It's all good. The hair looks good, thank you. Yeah, I really like it. Whatever. Right? We good. But yeah, I didn't want to do a Passerine reading stream where I don't have my face cam on though. Like normally I would have just put on a face cam, no face cam, but I don't want to have like a reading stream where I don't have face cam on, because I feel like we're in chapter 3 now, by the way, for the people who haven't seen the other stream that I did with reading it. So we're in chapter 3 now. And I feel like it's getting emotional.
Hi Nikki, you replied to my tweet earlier. It made me so happy.
Aww.
Thank you for being such a great role model, Eiley.
Thank you. We're also going to oh yeah, we have new trial mods. Say hello, new trial mods. They're on trial for about a month, I think, and then we'll see if we choose them. But yeah, hello, welcome trial mods. I hope you're enjoying modding for this community. And we also, do we have anything else? I uploaded a vlog which we're gonna watch. I think we're gonna first watch the vlog, then we're gonna read, and then we're gonna play Beyond the Souls. Minx is here.
You're perfect, remember that.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, Minx is here. She is in the other room, streaming herself. Jack's here, as always, as you should be. Salacia, thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate it, thank you. We're doing, for the people, in case you didn't see it on Twitter, I announced it on Twitter, but we are doing the main channel stream for the vlog tomorrow.
Can you say hi, Serena? I love you so much.
Am I quiet? Oh, yes, I am quiet. I'm so sorry. I should be louder now. Casey, thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate it, thank you. Hi, Jack. Much better, I'm glad. Yeah, it's my microphone. But yeah, shall we start with the vlog? Actually, I don't know if I can. I have an ad on my own vlog. Valerie, thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate it. I don't know if I can tell the story. But the vlog is edited by one of my good and old friends. We've been friends for don't think you've
Hi Nikki, how are you today? What's
I'm good. How are you? Passerine is a fan fiction, mainly based around the Sleepy Boys, so Wilbur, Techno, Tommy, and Phil. But it has other characters in there too. I know that my character is in there. I haven't read there yet though. I don't know when my character is appearing. But yeah. Yeah, my vlog is edited by one of my very good friends and very old friends. We've been friends since... Let me ask him. We were in school together, and he brought me onto like the Discord, not the Discord, the TeamSpeak, where I met a lot of my friends and where I basically grew up. We were teenagers together and we grew up together. 2015. Wow. Yeah, we've known each other since 2015. Wow. So yeah, I love him very much and he has a very special place in my heart. And he edited the vlog for me this time because I wanted to hire him as my editor. And that's footage that I had. So yeah, this means a lot to me. This vlog means a lot to me because I love him very much. He's a very great person. Oh, he's watching the stream. Hi. I didn't know you were watching. Anyways, let's watch the vlog chat. Now I'm embarrassed. Let me. Which one is the right game cap? No, that's the wrong one. That's the right one. All right. Wait, what are you saying? I love you too very much. Aww. Aww. Bless. Alright, let's watch it. Let's watch it, chat. For the people who have already seen it, I'm sorry. You'll have to go through it again. It's a good vlog though. It's very good. So yeah, that was when I went to the Samsung photo shoot. I have a third vlog still, but I'm not allowed to post it yet. It was really fun though. It was very exhausting that day, but it was very fun.
Show us some dance moves. Show us something.
Ooh, who changed it? Who changed it? I just said it's cool. I look so cool. Ah, thank you. I was very anxious about all of the like Matrix shoots because I obviously had to wear like this very tight, leathery, not leather. What is it?
People with ADHD save 10 hours reading articles with this Chrome extension. But no, by all...
Sorry, ad. Latex, yeah, latexy thing, and I was very, very anxious about that. I tried to not eat anything like bloating for 3 days before that, and then the day before that, I ate donuts, and I realized, oh shoot, that was a mistake.
How are you doing,
So,
Stevie?
yeah.
I'm doing well.
Was I hot in it? I was,
great.
yes.
Thank you.
I was very hot in it. Not as hot as Stevie was in the bald cap though. Stevie had to go bald
Shave
for
your head
this.
after this.
I think I should have just done it before they did this, really. Made it easier for them. But
Yeah.
I can't see myself, though.
Yeah, true.
As you
You'll
can
see
probably
But
yourself.
yeah, it was really fun. Thank you, Chad. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Me too. It's gonna be so good.
You lot are getting more out of this than I am.
Oh, do you know what's really funny? For the people who don't know, do you guys remember on my main account when I played Minecraft with Stevie? He did a charity stream during that, and he had to shave his head now, so he's actually bald now.
It's always interesting to see yourself bald.
Funny.
Alright, you next then.
Yeah.
Maybe not now. You know, we don't want to.
He should have done that a few weeks ago, you know. We were actually doing this.
So kind of you.
I know, right? What are you thinking, Stevie?
I'm looking good.
Yeah, I think you look good. Yeah.
I might
This
stick
look gives
with
you
it
Matrix vibes. Yes, that was what it was inspired by.
after. Exactly, I got the
It
beard.
was inspired by
that'll
the
do.
Matrix.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that.
I did it. I got that.
I felt so bad during that. I did not. I swear, I didn't do anything bad, chat.
Niki is actually a massive diva.
I think. Oh, you know what it was. You know what it was. You know what this is about. I have like, my hair goes. Do you see that? I have the biggest forehead. Wait, let me show you. I have like the biggest. Oh my god, it's so bad. I have a big forehead. And they wanted to slick my hair back, and I was like, I am very insecure about my forehead, and I do not want you to, like, I would not like you to slick it back like this, because I already looked really bold in this, because I had very, like, light hair. So I was like, could you cover this? And that's what this is about.
I asked if they could make you bald as well.
Oh, really?
So that's actually what's happening. You just don't
Wilbur
realise it yet.
2.0, so true. Will and I just don't, you know what? We don't trust people with good foreheads. You know? We're the big forehead gang. Me, Will, Emma Langevin. I think Tommy, does Tommy have a big forehead? I think Tommy might have one. I'm not sure. But you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Gonna tell me to close my eyes.
You can still vibe with a big forehead, as you can see here.
Yeah, but I feel like I can like flick it a bit.
It's crazy how like
Does it
good
suit
it
me?
looks. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm 42.
There it is, the outfit. It was cool. I felt really cool in it. It was very squeaky. You can hear in some scenes that it's like very squeaky. I'll show you. Thomas just looked so cool in this. He's just a model. Oh, where's my master? He just looks so cool in everything.
Luther right here.
Okay.
Just here to rhyme Kodak with Kodak.
Yeah. Mr. Worldwide. What do we think? Like it?
I love the sweater. No, that's the sweater.
The jacket?
What is it called? No, the thing.
The waistcoat?
Yeah, I love that.
I've got a coat to put on still as well. Big coat. There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna sweat.
Morpheus.
I'm wearing 17 layers.
So snazzy. Look at it, yeah.
No, I can't wait to get it.
Look at him, he looks so cool in it. Look, the boots, I would have worn those boots.
show
I
halfway there.
was so jealous of
But the
those
code makes
boots.
like 50%. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Neo
think
wasn't
the sunglasses also make a lot.
Yeah, then,
Oh yeah, you can
that's so
hear the
so we're
squeaking
like
in the
80%
background.
loading.
Yeah.
The jacket's like the final 20. You don't see Neo without the jacket. So it's warm, we're getting warm.
True.
We're getting there.
Ah,
We're getting
hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Liam, my assistant, not my assistant, but he assisted me with filming a lot. He helped me with filming a lot.
Don't they look cool?
They look amazing. You look cool.
Thank you. Oh my god.
Look at them! Look at them! No. Look at them. There! They look so cool! And they're the best people. Thomas and Stevie are just such nice people. Stevie is so funny. You'll see it in the other vlog, which I'm not allowed to show yet. But that was the first time I met him, and he is just so funny. And Thomas just, you know how like sometimes, as a woman especially, men can, so like tall men can make you feel uncomfortable sometimes. Thomas is the complete opposite. He will make you feel so safe and comfortable. He's just the sweetest. He's just the coolest person. I love them. I love both of them so much. They're amazing. They're just great. It was really cool.
Good evening.
I'm trying to help his glasses. Because they're like
They-
clip, but
They just clip onto the nose. There's no like side bits, so I just have to go like this.
That's what I was gonna say. I've never met someone who thinks so much like me. Jinx!
Jinx again!
Our mental synchronization could have but one explanation. You and I were just meant to be.
Why am I the only one who knows this?
Say goodbye to the pain of the past. You don't have to feel it anymore. Love is an open
It's just,
door.
I love watching the vlog.
People with ADHD spend
Yes!
10 hours reading articles with this
Thank you,
Chrome
Ad.
extension. But no, by all
It's a disaster!
Thank you. We do have fun.
I'm giving myself money here, chat. I'm paying. I mean, by watching the ads, I'm giving myself money. That's pretty funny.
look, this is Liam. He is helping me.
Chief Fogger,
Yeah, you are the
lead.
I was like, why does it all look like more in our face now? It's because they darkened it.
Yeah, I don't use AdBlock on YouTube
Yeah.
or anywhere.
Shut the shutter thing.
We have to stick with. We have to
This looks really cool.
like put up with
I like
watching
this a
the
lot.
ads.
So scared to trip.
Was it hot there? Especially So like in this area where we were filming, wait, you will see it, like in this area, and like the white area, there were obviously like studio lights like everywhere, so it got really hot in this area. And then once you stepped out of it, Gold One Tier, thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate it, thank you. Once you step out of it, you would just have like the cold AC. So after every scene that we shot, we would all just step out, like remove our, I couldn't remove my coat because I had my microphone taped to it, so I couldn't remove it, but Stevie and Thomas were just like remove the coat, just stood there in the AC for a bit because it was very hot, and obviously we were wearing the costumes, so we were really hot too. I love her too.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's serious.
Wow.
Thank you, Heidi, for the sub. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a day off of being in the Matrix. Just having my coffee. Gotta stay
You
awake.
can hear the squeaking.
I'm about to save the world.
Yeah.
Don't you know?
Who from?
Huh? From the agents. You haven't watched Matrix, that's why. The agents.
From me.
Cute. Oh, there was also one thing. Wait, let's go back to like to the screens. There, the screens. Oh God, I don't. Wait. Is there what? Is there? There. The screens, right? There was a there on the screens there were like people from Guild just like shown, and we finished filming one of the scenes, and we probably because Thomas and I already filmed before, because we filmed in the bar before, and then we went over here and filmed here, and so Thomas and I have already been filming for like 2 or 3 hours, and we were really exhausted already, and then we had to refilm because one of the scenes.
DJ Khaled. Also, if you had $100,000, what would you do with it?
If I had $100,000, what would I do with it? First of all, I would pay off all of my mom's debt, because that's what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing that in intervals. But I would pay off all of my mom's debt. Thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate it, thank you. I would pay off all of my mom's debt. If I just got $100,000 now, pay off my mom's debt. Probably apartments are too expensive, but probably pay her either an apartment or a new car, and a vacation. I would probably if I now would get $100,000, I would spend it on my mom. Definitely. Anyway, oh no, yeah, one of the scenes got correct. Like something was wrong with the scenes. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what was wrong, but something was wrong with one of the scenes. And we had to refilm it all again after we had already finished it. So we had to refilm the entire scene after we already filmed so much. It was so exhausting. It was fun though. It was fun, but it was so exhausting. Give me.
Yeah.
So cool.
Nice.
Nico can do it too.
It's so heavy.
He had like a weight of cold.
Does
it work? Yours came down.
I feel like because it's so heavy.
Yes.
What?
Yes. So good.
I thought
so
I'd fly
good.
away.
I was cool for a second.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's the shoot going?
Going well. My feet are starting to hurt. Oh God, I can't even stand on them anymore.
At the end, I just had
But
to
it's
sit.
going well. It's going well. It's fun. Yeah. Are you enjoying sitting?
Okay. How can I not? It's incredible.
Yeah.
We'll just grab this. We'll
It's
use
really
it.
cool.
It's good to be behind the camera, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to be in front of it. It's just, you know, a lot of standing.
Yeah.
And we're gamers. We only sit down. So
Truth.
Yeah, that's fine.
How are you feeling now that it's over?
I'm so excited to take all of this off.
Oh, I believe you.
See me rip my balls down.
Stevie,
How are
like
you all feeling?
all day he was in that bolt cap.
Yeah.
It must have been
It's a wrap.
such a relief.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Woo! I can't take off my tie.
Oh no!
Struggling.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I am very happy. It was a lot of fun.
Did it go well?
Yeah, I'm excited to brush through my hair because it's very hard. And I'm sweating.
Here we go then, go on.
Oh,
Do what
getting
you
his
gotta
bolt
do.
cap removed.
Well, look,
It's like a bucket of water just going to release.
she covered all of my
At
pores.
least he looks good, Ball. True.
Oh,
This is surgery.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, so you can have that on the full video. Get you home. You got it?
Oh. Oh my.
I forgot he had hair. True, we were so used to him. We were so used to Stevie being bald that day that when he had hair again, it was unusual. BTTV. I forgot BTTV again. I forgot it again. How many times has Niki forgotten BTTV now? Like, what, 4? You can remind me. Yes, mods, please remind me. I know I also need to change something with Fossabot. Yeah, just remind me. That would be really nice. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
At least now you know you look good bald. That's all.
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
Oh, put it back.
Come all out.
And funny.
A big one, a long one.
That was not easy wearing it again.
Productive day.
Here's a video.
Yeah, it's a video.
We're done.
Thank you,
We can
Natalie,
screenshot
for
the video.
to yours. I
Yeah, that's how you take pictures sometimes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take any suggestions. For sure. Mom, thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's okay. That was good. That was good. Yeah.
He's an embarrassment.
Aww.
Aw. Yeah, we're done.
And sleep.
Hey! Did you like it, chat? Did you like it? Yes. Aw. I'm glad. Yeah, like I said, I do have another video already in my drafts, and I'm vlogging tomorrow. It's just I had to quarantine. I was quarantining. I didn't have to quarantine, but I was quarantining for the last few weeks. Not weeks, days. Weeks. Like 2 weeks. Ever since after the meetup. Just because like some people caught COVID, and even though I was negative and I didn't have COVID and Rihanna didn't have COVID either, I still wanted to quarantine just in case. But now I'm out again and now I'm done with quarantining, so now I can vlog and and I have a lot of plans. Sorry. Oh. Am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And I have a lot of plans, so we'll be doing that very soon. Thank you, Megan, for the bits. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. How did I have this? I had it here, but this is the wrong screen. I have to change it to this one. No, this one. No, this one. Yeah. Too many screens, chat. I have too many screens. No, what do you think?
Face the game recommendation as A Plague Tale: Innocence.
I actually bought that. I did buy that. Or it's on my Steam wish list. I either bought it or it's on my wish list. Oh, there you can see it. Let me quickly look actually. No, it's on my wish list then. Wish list. Yes, it's the highest game on my wish list. I really want to play that. So it will be played, yeah, for sure. Now that you recommended it, too. We are at chapter 3, right? Yeah, I think we are at chapter 3. Yeah, Jack's gonna stay in the screen chat. I'll move you. I'll move you here. You can be here. You can hang out here. Okay. I'm gonna do the disclaimer again. I am not native English, and I have
How do you feel
I'm not good at reading in general. So I will pronounce some words wrong. I will stutter here and there, or just you know, not even know what certain words mean. I'm gonna do my best. But yeah, just so you know, that's the disclaimer. I'm quickly gonna look for some DMCA free classical music, because I think that's the one that we listened to before. And let's start. Oh, last time we read, like I said, we read the first 2 chapters. We got introduced to most of our, no, all of the Sleepy Boys. Yeah, we got introduced to all of the Sleepy Boys, starting with Technoblade and his friend Phil. Phil at some point, Technoblade is an immortal, and so is Phil. Phil at some point disappeared and started his family and his own kingdom with his, and he had a wife and 2 sons, Will and Tommy. And we ended on Will and Tommy's mother dying, and it was very sad. It was very sad. Oh, I need to move.
Hello, Nikki. You've been such a great inspiration to me. Do you have any favorite movies? Also, can you say
I love
hello
your
to
name.
my cousin and I?
Your name is my favorite movie. I don't know your cousin and his name. You should give me the names if I have to say, or if I should say hello to someone. Anyway, Passerine, chapter 3. When the cold wind, is the music loud enough or too loud? How's the music? It's perfect. All right. It's good. Too loud? I can make it a bit quieter. Like that. Alright. When the cold wind rolls in front of the north, what am I to do? Summary. No, Tommy began, rethinking his word. We need something small. Okay. No, Tommy, sorry, I was changing the music. No, Tommy began, rethinking his words even as he was saying them. Being king has nothing to do with it. I guess I mean it was different before. Before he started choosing being king over being my big brother. Oh yeah, Phil's a runaway or disappeared. That happened too. So now Will is king. Oh, Tommy. The sadness in Techno's voice made Tommy's eyes snap open. You think he has a choice? Or hypocrisy, happiness, and the heaviness of certain secrets? Okay, the chapter's trigger warnings are as followed. Panic attacks. So, just so you know, trigger warning, panic attacks. Tommy knew a thing or two about secrets. He was 5 years old when he first heard the word whispered from his father whispered from father to son. Let's keep this secret, all right, Will? Dad had said in a gentle hush of midnight, unaware that Tommy was right outside the library door, hanging on to every word. Even then, Tommy must have known Wilbur was special. If Dad was speaking to him like that, not like he was an annoying child, but like they were equals, bearing the same burdens and battle scars. But what if they never go away? Wilbur had whispered back. Tommy had never heard his older brother so frightened. Tommy walked away before he could hear the rest of the conversation. He was obviously not privy to. Looking back, perhaps some of him wanted to preserve his guided image of his older brother, like a dead fossil crystallized in amber. Because older brothers were never scared. Older brothers never bled. Older brothers never cowered. Older brothers were immortal. He would hold on to that belief until it was too late. He was 6 years old when he got a secret to keep for his own, and truly understood its burden. A year later, and his brother is crowned. Tommy stood proudly in the crowd as Wilbur kneeled before a man with white robes. The sunlight from the windows caught in the jewels of the crown held over Wilbur's head, a crown that was once their father's, but no longer. Wilbur recited oaths of protection and generosity, goddess and goodness and fairness, righteous justice, and unwavering fealty to the kingdom. And the robed man proclaimed him as King Wilbur, protector of the realm, ruler of the kingdom. Long may he reign. Tommy had cheered the loudest, enough to shake the rafters above, and when Wilbur smiled, he knew it was just for him. 2 years later, on the cusp of his 10th birthday, Tommy asked Technoblade the same question he'd been asking since they met. Will you train me? This time? Technoblade said yes. Time unfurled like unbound parchment, rolling off into the distance without Tommy's notice. They grew together, him and his king brother, taller and broader, stronger and smarter, more Wilbur for the latter, if Tommy were to be honest. Wilbur's duties took him from Tommy more often than not, but that was alright, too, because Tommy had Techno. They would spar and talk until Techno was inevitably called back to the king's side, but by then Tommy was appeased. The days he was alone were the worst, but mostly indistinguishable in their monotonous quiet. Hard words. One of those days, he found himself drifting aimlessly through the castle. Halfway down a vaguely familiar hallway, he heard something that had been sorely missed since his mother's death. Music. He followed the sound to a door that was slightly ajar. Tommy held his breath as he looked through the crack, and then lost his breath altogether when he found the source of the mouthful melody. Wilbur. Tiredness edged into the slope of his shoulders and the skin under his eyes, strumming his guitar, cursing as he missed a note or two, but still continuing, still playing, still soldiering on. And with him was Technoblade, on a sweetly kneeling violin, his scarred hands moving gently over the strings, his bow arm moving fluidly through the air. Both of them had their eyes closed, so completely lost to their own music, and Tommy knew, deep in his gut, this was a world he could never breach. And so he closed the door and retreated to his silence. At 15 years old, Tommy was the oldest he'd ever been, but he never felt so young. Wilbur's official chambers were not meant for those outside of his council, but Tommy had never been one for the rules. The guard outside the carved double doors, truly pretentious in Tommy's correct opinion, merely sighted at the sight of Tommy coming down the hallway and shuffled to the side to let him pass. His Majesty has a lot of paperwork to do, the guard said, trying and failing to be stern. If so, then His Majesty could certainly welcome my esteemed company, Tommy replied, giving the guard a grin and a salute as he pushed his way into the king's office. Beyond the door was a large, sparsely decorated room. There used to be paintings on the walls of past kings, their forefathers with gold hair and brilliant blue eyes. But the first thing Wilbur had done as king was take them all down. Tommy remembered sitting on the floor of the offices, staring up as Wilbur climbed a ladder, rolled his sleeve up to his elbow, and began ripping the paintings from their hooks. There had been such violence in his movements, as if the task was the very bane of his existence. Once it was done, Wilbur stood in the center of his devastation, taking in the bare walls, and nodded. Am I getting rated? And nodded once to himself, pleased. Tommy still didn't know if Wilbur even noticed he was there too. Hi, Raiders! Is it unofficial? Hello, unofficial Jack Raiders. I hope you're well. We're reading Passerine. We're reading Passerine, chapter 3 right now. I hope you had a good stream. Yeah, trigger warning, panic attack for this chapter, just so you know, in case you just came here. Hope you had a good stream with Jack, though. I know you did Laugh You Lose with Jack and Scott. Hope that was well. Hope that was fun. My mouth is getting, even though I'm drinking, my mouth is getting so dry. Thank you.
We love you, Nikki.
Alright, let's continue. The only paintings on the wall now were the landscapes Mama used to make. Tommy's favorite was the one of the mountain range, shrouded in blue mist, because he could see in the corner where Mama had given him the brush for a few seconds. 3 errant brushstrokes in an otherwise perfect painting that stood as a reminder that, once upon a time, Tommy had existed in the same universe as his mother. Oh God. I don't know if you can see that, but that gave me chills. Okay. Bookshelves stood against one wall, with the other two set with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden outside. The gardens outside. At the center at the center of all things was a desk and a king. Wilbur had scribbled away at a roll of parchment. His crown lay discarded beside his inkpot and a cup of cold tea. "What are you doing?" Tommy asked, closing the door behind him. Wilbur didn't reply. He gave no indication of even hearing him. Tommy rolled his eyes and produced 2 apples from his pockets. He made his way over to the desk, moved over a stack of heavy, important-looking books, and hauled himself up to his sitting position, his legs dangling over the edge. "You've been here all day, you know," Tommy said idly, balancing one of the apples on the top of his finger. "Miss breakfast and lunch?" What's with my voice? Wilbur only grunted in response. "Kingdom's on fire," Tommy continued. "Rioting in the streets. The guards are starging a cop. Techno is leading them." "Sure, Tommy." Wilbur noncommittally reaching to dips on his quill into the inkpot. Tommy casually moved the inkpot out of his reach. Wilbur glared up at him, finally acknowledging him, alpide with annoyance. "What do you want, Tommy?" Wilbur asked, irritable. Tommy took one of the apples and planted it squarely in front of his brother. "Starvation's a pretty short way to go," Tommy said. "Find a less dumb way to die." Wilbur stared down at the fruit as if he had never seen one before. "I'm not hungry," he said. At the exact moment his stomach started to grow. Tommy snorted. "Embarrassing for you." "Shut up!" Wilbur was putting down his quill and reaching for the apple. Tommy bit into his own to hide his self-satisfied smile. Tommy leaned over to catch a glimpse at what Wilbur was writing. His brother's familiar looping script had already covered most of the page with words like intentions and fortifications and conscription. Conscription? Tommy repeated around a mouthful of apple. What does that mean? Swallow before speaking, Wilbur said mildly. Swallow before speaking? Swallow before speaking, Tommy mocked. You sound like an old governess. So grouchy. He'd inhaled too quickly. Unchewed apple slid suddenly down his throat and locked there. Tommy gasped for air, reaching blindly for something to drink. Wilbur hastily placed his teacup into Tommy's hand, and he drank it down with gusto until his airways were clear once more. When he looked at his brother, though, a blur of tears, Wilbur was desperately pursing his lips in a violent fight to keep his laugh down. You're an ass, Tommy wheezed, and your tea's garbage. Wilbur swiped a thumb across his own mouth to wipe his smile away. Techno made that tea. Oh! Tommy looked down at the tiny teacup with curiosity. He could not imagine his hardened tutor patiently brewing tea for anyone, even Wilbur. That's alright then. Gods, Tommy. Wilbur placed his elbow on his desk and rested his cheek against the heel of his hand. The look he gave Tommy was one of the utmost affection, despite the obvious exhaustion etched into every inch of his face. Will you ever grow out of your hero worship? Will you ever grow out of your hero worship of him? Tommy took another, considerably smaller bite of his apple. He chewed on the sweet pulp, thinking all the while of the pink-haired tutor that had taught him and Wilbur all they knew for survival, and not just through fighting. Techno could have left. He should have left. After those long nights of Tommy waking up crying, Wilbur's dark moods, days where both of them felt so frayed and unwelling each other felt like the only way to fix it, of frustration and anger, with no other way out than screaming. But he stayed. He stayed to watch Wilbur be crowned, stayed to be his most trusted advisor, stayed and kept him together when everyone else expected the boy king to fall apart under the pressure. He stayed and marked Tommy's height on one of the statues at the training pavilion. Despite his insistence that Tommy had not grown an inch, he stayed even after Wilbur forced him to attend balls and galas, and endured each one of Tommy's jibs about the pompous suits he was made to wear. How on earth could Tommy grow out of worshipping someone like that? Tommy swallowed, shrugged. Maybe if you were awesome, I'd hero worship you too. Wilbur scoffed. I'm awesome. Wilbur, if you have to say I'm awesome to prove you're awesome, you're not awesome. Do you remember? Wilbur said suddenly, straightening in his seat and staring at the blood-red fruit of his hand. When we used to pick these with Mother? And Dad, Tommy almost added, before catching himself. We'd go down to the orchids with big wicker baskets, Tommy remembered. You used to lift me up on your shoulders so I could get the ones on the higher branches. A wistful smile, sorry, I'm drinking energy drinks, so a wistful smile tugged on Wilbur's lips. I probably can't lift you now. I'm not that heavy. Wilbur shook his head. It's not a matter of whether I could, it's a matter of whether you'd let me. Tommy opened his mouth to retort, when quickly shut it when he realized it was true. He probably wouldn't appreciate being on Wilbur's shoulders, nor would he even need to. He'd hit his growth sprouts sometime last year, incensing Techno greatly when it was clear Tommy would be taller than him if he kept up the pace. That meant he would soon be taller than Wilbur too. Let me quickly clean my glasses, Chuck, because I'm struggling to see. What am I reading? I'm reading Passerine, which is a fan fiction about the Sleepy Boys. Yeah, that's better. What kind of cat is Zuko? Zuko is a Siberian ragdoll mix. And he is a very good boy. Okay. Okay. I can see now. We could just try shooting the apples down with arrows, Tommy offered gently. I'll try not to shoot for your eye this time, Wilbur replied with a laugh. I don't remember much about her, Tommy admitted, as he rolled his apple between his palms, as if that could somehow make her distant laughter clear in his head. Thank you for the sub, I appreciate it. But I remember how much she loved those those apple picking days. We would be there until midnight if she got her way. She used to gather the apple blossom and toss them at us, just to make us laugh whenever we complained we were getting bored. No, Wilbur said quietly. That was Father. Tommy wanted to kick himself. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I guess. I told you I don't really remember. It's alright, Tommy. There's no need to apologize. Wilbur tossed his apple high into the air and caught it gracefully with one hand. He abandoned you too. They polished off the rest of their apples in silence, neither of them saying another word about the phantoms that had been hanging over them for nearly a decade. It seemed to Tommy that people were haunted by two types of ghosts. The ghosts of those who died and those who left. It was just his luck that he had both. When they were both done, Wilbur silently wrapped the cores in an extra sheet of parchment and placed it on the edge of his table for later disposal. As he did, Tommy's attention was drawn back to the letter Wilbur had been working on when he entered. You didn't answer my question, Tommy said, idly kicking his heels against Wilbur's desk. What does conscription mean? Wilbur sighed as he took up his quill again. You don't need to know, Tommy. Tommy blisted. Thank you, Lemon, for the sub. Tommy bristled at the careless dismissal. I'm a prince of this kingdom, Wilbur. I deserve to know. Wilbur quirked an elbow at him. Oh, suddenly you're interested in the affairs of the realm? I've always been interested. What's our highest earning export product then? Tommy scanned the table. Apples? Tea? Parchment? Wilbur rolled his eyes. You are a ridiculous child. He began scribbling away at the letter once more. I'm not a child, Tommy murmured. You are. Look at yourself. You're supposed to be a prince, and yet you spend your days play fighting with Techno, or annoying the guards, or annoying me. What part of your behavior isn't childlike? Wilbur's quill stopped in the middle of a sentence as his word settled over him. Tommy felt heat rise from his cheeks and hurriedly got to his feet before Wilbur could see. Thank you for the sub. His gut crunched at the insult, and the lingering taste of apple on his tongue turned rancid and bitter. Tommy, Wilbur called, but Tommy was already making his way towards the door. Tommy, wait! You're not the fucking boss of me, Tommy spat without turning, lacing his words with venomous anger. I am, actually, but that's beside the point. Tommy heard Wilbur's seat grapple against the floor, but no footsteps turning after him. Tommy, gods, you're proving my point if you walk out of that door. You don't scare me. Screw you, Wilbur, screw you. Tommy threw the door open, startling the guard outside. He marched past the threshold, slapping at his cheeks as if that might somehow dissipate the shame gathering there. He shouldn't be this angry. All three of them, Techno, Wilbur, and Tommy himself, have said worse things in the past to and about each other, but seldom did it ever sting like this. Perhaps because it came in the wake of their father's memory being conjured up between them. Perhaps because it had been their first proper conversation in a week. Perhaps because Wilbur was right. Wilbur was right. The door slammed shut behind him, each echoing through the empty hallway. Come on, Tommy. Come on, Tommy prayed. Run after me. But the door stayed closed, and that was answer enough. Alright, let me do something real quick. Because I keep scrolling and you won't be able, you can't see it. So let me do it like this. Maybe that's better. Tommy found Techno in the training pavilion. Ma'am, I am trying to read here. There we go. Sorry. Tommy found Techno in the training pavilion, practicing his lunges with a silver trident Wilbur had gifted him a few years back. Technoblade took one look at the expression of Tommy's face and tossed him a spear that had been leaning against one of the statues. Wordlessly, they took their positions in the middle of the pavilion, sizing each other up for a moment before jumping into action. After 6 years under Techno's tutelage, Tommy could hold his own against knights twice his age and size. He'd even beaten Wilbur in once, though the older sibling profusely maintained that he went easy on Tommy. But he had never beaten Techno. Tommy was sure even Wilbur, who'd been training with Techno for longer, had never won against their tutor. In a truly bleak moment when he was 13, Tommy eventually realized that the man they were fighting against might not even be using his full strength. But that didn't matter right now. It wasn't about winning this time. Tommy rushed Techno with a visceral scream, a sound that came from deep within his chest. Techno deflected him easy enough, but Tommy continued the onslaught, dealing blow after... Thank you so much for the gifted sub, I appreciate it. After teeth-shattering blow. He kept screaming through it all, screaming nonsensically, screaming at his brother, at his dad, at his kingdom, at the gods themselves. He felt as if his throat might tear itself apart. Tommy managed to push Techno back towards one of the statues, the one that bore marks of Tommy's height over the years. Techno grunted as Tommy shoved the butt of his spear against Techno's chest, and then retaliated by catching its shaft on the prongs of his trident. With a single jerk of his arm, Techno ripped the spear out of Tommy's hand. It clattered to the floor somewhere behind Tommy, but that didn't stop him. He balled up his fists and hit indiscriminately at Techno, his knuckles finding an arm, a rib, a collarbone. And Techno merely stood there, taking all of it in. He let Tommy burn his anger away into exhaustion without a word of protest. When Tommy collapsed into the ground, a heaving, sweaty mess, Techno silently placed his own weapon to the side and laid down beside him. They spent half an hour just like that, staring up a roof, listening to Tommy's harsh breathing slowly wind down. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them needed to. Silence was a language in and of itself, and Techno was the most fluent in it. And so he was the one who knew just how to break it. Let me guess, Techno drawled. You and Wilbur had a fight again. Tommy exhaled through his nose. Called me an annoying child, he muttered. He does that every day, Tommy. I know, it was different this time though. He might actually have meant it. Ah. There was a rustle of fabric at Techno's crust as Techno crossed his arms under his head. Well, Wilbur's not having a very fun week, so I'd take anything he says with a grain of salt. I wouldn't know that, Tommy grumbled. Neither of you tell me anything. You never expressed a desire to be told. I would appreciate being told regardless. Noted then. Another moment of silence stretched before Tommy whispered, "He didn't even run after me. He would have before." Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw Techno shift, so he was looking down at him and braced against the floor. When Techno spoke again, "Hi, Car." When Techno spoke again, his voice was patience. Before what? Before he was king? Tommy sighed. He felt like his lungs had come to lose in all the chaos, Everything in his chest was too tight, all too sore. He closed his eyes against the pain, seeing his brother in the darkness, brown curls falling over his eyes as he bent over his guitar, smiling at his own music. Tommy would give everything to hear Wilbur play like that again. No, Tommy began, rethinking his words even as he was saying them. Being king has nothing to do with it. I mean it was different before. Before he started choosing being king over being a big brother. Oh, Tommy. The sadness in Techno's voice made Tommy's eyes snap open. You think he has a choice? Tommy rolled over to finally look Techno in the eye. Not much had changed with Techno over the years. He still keeps his hair long and occasionally let Tommy braid it. His hands remained as scarred as ever, with some fresh ones now and again from adventures he told no one about. And he still wore shirts with too many ruffles for Tommy's taste, but he no longer had the emerald earring he used to wear when they were younger. Tommy couldn't remember the last time he'd seen Techno with it. In its place was a sapphire Tommy had given him 2 years ago, mostly as a joke, and he'd only admit he was pleased to see Techno wearing it under the threat of death. Techno's expression was shattered. In that way of his... Sorry. Let's start again. Techno's expression was shattered in that way of his whenever uncomfortable topics came up. His past, state secrets, Dad. Something's really happening, Tommy said, watching Techno's face carefully. Something bad. Techno's face remained unchanged, save for the telltale quirk at the corner of his mouth that signaled his anger. Tommy had only seen Techno truly angry a handful of times, and was not eager to add to that list. Things are a bit fragile right now, Techno said, but I'm trying, I really am, and I need you to know that, Tommy. I do, Tommy said resoundingly. I trust you. Because while Techno had stayed when Tommy and Wilbur were at their worst, they'd repaid him in kind. A few years into Wilbur's reign, Techno had taken to study up on statesmanship and politics, and... Sorry, I'm kidding. There we go. Okay. I don't know why I'm nervous. He took studying up on statesmanship and politics and etiquette as if his very life depended on it. It was the only aspect he was lacking in, he'd said, and he needed to cover for Wilbur when push came to shove on the debate floor. And while Tommy and Wilbur couldn't understand his sudden zeal, they still knew that their tutor needed rest as much as any other human being, so they developed their own system of getting Techno to eat and drink, and oftentimes had to physically pry him away from the library. Techno eventually relented to calming down after he knocked Wilbur to the ground in one of their struggles to get him to bed. And when he sometimes disappeared in the middle of the night or went off to God's nowhere for days on end, he'd simply welcome him back when he was ready, no questions asked. Partially because the look of Techno's face after his little escapades implied that whoever asked would be thrown over a balcony. If things are so bad, why are you here then? Tommy asked. Shouldn't you be at the king's side, Sir Right-Hand Man? Techno wrinkled his nose in response. Oh! Laughter bubbled up out of Tommy, unbidden but welcome. I see. He kicked you out too, didn't he? I suggest a solution that would end all of problems very easily. Wilbur vetoed it, adamantly. Tommy grinned. You're throwing a tantrum, Techno scoffed. I am not you, Tommy, he paused. But I suppose under the dictionary definition of a tantrum, I am currently in the middle of one. Tommy began to laugh. That sort of laughter that ended in wheezing and hiccups. Techno watched him with a faint smile, and the two of them basked in the simplicity of it. Just two boys on the floor on a hot summer day, laughter bouncing off their skin. Stop talking. Thank you. Of their skin like sunlight. Sorry. I need like a better playlist. I need a calm playlist. That was not calm. Okay. We'll be okay, Techno, Tommy assured him once he settled down. I mean, it's you and Wilbur. You'll figure it out like you always do. Techno stared at Tommy for a moment before quickly looking away. That's enough, Passerine. Garbage for the day, I think. Get up so I can beat you to the ground again. What does Passerine mean? It means you need to push up on your vocabulary, Tommy. Passerine. Okay. Tommy grinned as Techno pulled him up, and through his palm was scarred, it was warm. And though his palm was scarred, it was warm. Tommy rolled his shoulders back until he heard the satisfying pop of his bones righting themselves. He and Techno had sparred until the sun went down, at which point a messenger had arrived to inform Techno that King Wilbur had said uncle, and was crying for help. Not in those words, but close enough in interpretation. Go, Tommy had encored when Techno had hesitated on the steps leading down from the training pavilion. At least one of us is welcomed back in His Majesty's good graces. He should be looking He should be looking for a way back into yours, Techno had replied, and was gone. Tommy had spent the rest of the evening stabbing at a training dummy with a spear until another servant arrived to call him to dinner, which, unsurprisingly, he ate alone in an empty dining room. Afterwards, he'd made up his mind to swallow his pride and found his way back into Wilbur's offices. The guard standing post outside was gone, which meant that Techno was still inside. After all, who needs guards with Technoblade there? As Tommy drew near, voices had begun to filter in through the door, muffled but getting clearer as he approached. Quiet today, someone was saying, but that hardly means anything. I think they know something I don't, Techno. Tommy held his breath as he pressed his ear against the door. Did you do the breathing exercises I taught you? Techno soft roll. Did I? Of course I did. I did everything you said. I always do, Wilbur said from fraught murmur. Then why won't you let me do this for you? Do what? Tommy had leaned in as close as he dared. Because it won't help, Wilbur had said. It sounded as if it was an argument they had a million times before. We don't know why they're gathering at the border yet. You've studied history. You know nothing good ever comes from that sort of maneuver, Wilbur. Meanwhile, the longer we wait, the less prepared we'll be if they do. Wilbur interrupted. We're not entirely unprepared. I've sent the conscription notices. Why is there so many hard words in this? I don't understand. Okay, there was a loaded pause. You did? Tommy didn't know if Techno sounded more impressed or indignant. When? This afternoon, after my little brother looked me in the eyes and I realized just how much I have to lose. At that point, Tommy had backed hastily from the door as if it burdened him. He turned to his heels and ran, his head spinning and his heart hammering, unsure whether to laugh or to cry. Something was really happening, something that made Wilbur think he was going to lose everything. Tommy didn't pay much attention to his history tutors. They were never as amazing as Technoblade was, but he did know that his family had maintained peace in the kingdom for decades, and that talks about borders were never joyful affairs. Now, thank you for the sub, I appreciate it. Now, in the silence of his bedroom, he paced, working out the kinks in his body and trying hard to ignore the gnawing feeling that he was on the brink of something too large to comprehend. But there was one thing he knew for certain. None of this would be happening if their father had stayed. Techno did, even when they had only known him for a few months. What had stopped him from doing the same? And then there was the guilt of knowing exactly what could have made him stay, what could have been done. Secrets, what terrible heavy things. Tommy was still wearing a path through his rug when the knock came, startling him up with his thoughts. Yes? He called, suddenly getting up the urge to reach for one of the decorative swords hanging from his wall. It's me, Wilbur. Tommy relaxed, and then jolting back. Wilbur? Tommy opened his door slowly, unsure of who was waiting on the other side, the king or the brother. But standing at the threshold, his shoulders slumped and his smile tired, was just Wilbur. Hello, Wilbur said. Can I come in? Tommy rolled his eyes. Techno told you to come, didn't he? The smile slipped from Wilbur's face. Does it matter? He asked exhaustedly. Suppose not. Tommy stood back to let Wilbur inside. Wilbur crept in like a tourist, looking at every inch of Tommy's room, like every little thing was a priceless artifact. When had Tommy last allowed his older brother into his bedroom? Most likely around the same time Wilbur moved his things into the king's quarters. I like this, Wilbur said idly, pointing at an ancient morning star hanging next to the door. Really ties the room together, I think. Cut the crap, Wilbur, Tommy snapped. The morning's vehemence returning like bitter waves to the shore. Just tell me why you're here. All right. Tommy leaned against the wall and crossed his arms, watching Wilbur suspiciously. Talk then. Wilbur crossed his legs and returned Tommy's security tenfold. His dark eyes seemed to be made for the very purpose of staring people down. First of all, I would like to apologize for what I said earlier. You're never an annoyance to me, Tommy, but you are a child. Wilbur held up to the silence of him. Let me finish, he said, wielding not the authority of a liege, but the firstborn sibling. You are a child. That isn't a bad thing. You're allowed to be what you are. You're young, but that's also a reason why I thought it was best to keep things from you. In my efforts to protect you, I drove you away, and that's the last thing that I want. Are you alright? And you're right. Speaking with Techno did help me come to that conclusion, but we all need Techno's help now and again, don't we? Tommy scoffed, but he couldn't disagree. Wilbur knew it too. I don't need to be protected, Wilbur, Tommy said weakly. Then why do you always look so sad? Tommy's eyes locked on Wilbur's. What? There was a world's worth of pain in Wilbur's expression. Whenever you think no one's watching, you look so sad, Tommy. But I see you. You joke and laugh and shout all day, but the moment you're alone, you get this look in your face. You're carrying some heavy weight and you're trying to find somewhere to set it down, but there's nowhere. You've seen that look before. I've seen that look before, Tommy, and that's why I'm scared for you, because Father, don't, Tommy croaked. Don't compare me to him, Wilbur. I am nothing like him. Prove it then. Wilbur suddenly stood, making Tommy jerk back against the wall. Do what he never had the guts to do. Then tell me what's wrong, Tommy. Tell me what you're carrying, and I'll help you. Tommy's chest felt tight with the pressure of the decade-old secret. His eyes instinctively scanned the room for an exit, some way out, some way to never speak of this again. He wanted nothing more than to melt into the wallpaper behind him and never see the light of day again. Wilbur's expression softened at Tommy's panic, and he slowly sat back down on the set. I'm sorry, he said gently. I didn't mean to. He pinched the bridge of his nose and let out a long sigh. I'm so shit at this. Okay, here. To prove you that I can handle your secret, I'll tell you mine. Tommy's brows furrowed. You have a million secrets, Wilbur, maybe even more than that. I know, but this is the secret, Tommy. There it was again, the feeling that he was standing on this precipice of a dark, unfathomable chasm. I'm sorry. I, said Wilbur, hear voices. He taped his temple, right here. Voices that aren't, he tapped his temple. Voices that aren't mine or anyone's else, as far as I know. We're still trying to figure it out. We? Tommy breathed. Techno and I. Ah, of course. Tommy leaned slightly forward, confusion and fear warring his gut. What do these voices say? Sometimes they're cryptic, vague, talking about fate and strings. Sometimes they just taunt me, and sometimes it's worse. Wilbur took a shuddering breath. So much worse. And right now, Tommy asked, not sure if he wanted to know the answer. Right now, Wilbur said quietly, they're telling me to kill you. Tommy's breath caught in his throat. He was suddenly very aware of how many weapons, decorative or otherwise, he had on his walls. Wilbur, you can't. I'm not going to do it, Tommy, Wilbur said, sounding hurt that Tommy might ever think the opposite. I would never hurt you. But the voices, they're saying it's inevitable, that it's your destiny to die by my hand. And that is a story that has been told many times over, and we can't change how it ends. And how does it end? Badly, Wilbur whispered. His tone made it clear that whatever it was, Tommy was not prepared to hear it. Well, you don't actually know the voices are saying what the voices are saying are real, right? Maybe it's all nonsense and it won't actually happen. But it already has, Wilbur swallowed, and both he and Tommy settled themselves for what he was about to say. 2 months ago, the voices told me there was something coming, that an army was gathering our northern borders. But we don't have any enemies. That's what I thought too. But I sent some spies to investigate, just in case, and they confirmed it. Oh my god, that scared me! Oh my god! I'm so sorry, this music, oh my god. Okay. We don't have any enemies, that's what I thought too, blah blah blah. That was, what was it that Techno said? What was it what Techno said? Wilbur's not having a very fun week. Tommy might laugh at how huge of an underestimate that was if he wasn't too busy choking on his own tongue. War. Such a small word for such a big thing. Well, Tommy slid to the floor of his legs. Tommy slid to the floor as his legs gave out. That's that then. Techno and I are trying to make contact with the foreign army's generals, Wilbur said, and Tommy noticed for the first time how many silver hairs Wilbur had acquired. Almost glowing in the moonlight, streaming from the windows, we're doing everything we can to stop it from happening. Tommy, but yes, that's it. Those are the biggest secrets. The rest from happening, Tommy. The rest are inconsequential. He took a deep breath, as if to steady himself. I think it's your turn, Tommy. Let's find some music, chat. Let's find some music. There's a one. Okay, there's one. Maybe. No, I want a sad one. I want sad music. We need sad music, chat. Yeah, this one's good, I think. Okay. Tommy laughed bitterly. After that reveal, anything I say will just sound stupid. It won't, Wilbur said resolutely. He leaned back in the seat, giving Tommy a gentle look. Whenever you're ready, Tommy, I'm right here. Tommy drew his legs toward himself and wrapped his arms around his knees, clinging on for dear life. This was too much, too fast. He wanted to yell. He wanted to crack his fists open on the marble statue with Techno's little markings. He wanted to pinch himself and wake up yesterday, when nothing was wrong except for the gnawing pain in his chest that had never gone away, even 9 years later. He wanted his parents. The world had gone suddenly dark, and in the shadows, Tommy finally let go. You want my secret, Wilbur? He pressed his face against his knees, as if that might hide his shame from the world. I saw him. There it was, the truth, or a confession, or both. That night, I saw him. He heard Wilbur suck in his breath. There was no need to elaborate between the two of them. There was only ever one he, and only ever one night. He kissed my hair, and that was what woke me. I saw him walk away from my bed towards my window. I saw him open it. Thank you. I saw him open it, and I saw him climb out, or jump out. I want to say he flew out like a bird, but I don't remember that part very well. What I do remember is just laying there, fully awake, knowing something was really fucking wrong. I just laid there. Tommy's eyes began to sting, so he closed them shut before the first of the pathetic tears could fall. Eventually, I climbed out of bed, and I went to their room. Wanting to believe that I just dreamed it all. And that's when I found Mama. He could still in his mind's eye. He remembered so little of her, but he could never forget how he'd crawled up on the bed next to her, trying to wake her. He could never forget his confusion when she refused to, nor the blinding pain when he realized why. And most days, Wilbur, that's all I think about. How I was awake and could have stopped him, and I could have made him stay. And you wouldn't have needed to be king so young. I could have spared you for all of this, Wilbur. And now, everything's gone to shit, and it's all my. A sob tore free from his lips, sudden and unrelenting. I want to help you, but I don't know how. Nobody ever taught me how. Tommy. Wilbur's voice sounded so far away. But the worst thing, Tommy continued, trying to ignore the ever-tightening noose around his neck, is that maybe I should have seen it coming. He used to come by my door in the middle of the night when he used to live across the hall. I kept my door open just a crack after the first time it happened, just to see if he would come again. And he did, so many times. I used to think he would knock eventually, but he never did. Tommy tightened his hold of himself, shaking with grief and maybe with relief too. I think he was saying goodbye long before he left Wilbur.
P. Tommy deserves better any truers.
For a moment, the only response to his word was silence. Tommy was afraid to look up to see Wilbur had left, angry and betrayed. But instead, Tommy felt warm arms encircle him and pull him towards something safe and solid. Tommy, Wilbur whispered into Tommy's hair. You were 6. And that was it. That was what broke Tommy in the end. He crashed into his brothers, wrapping his arms around Wilbur's torso and burying his face in his chest. The tears finally came, a accumulation of 9 years of guilt and paranoia, of stumbling through the life, unsure of where he stood with his brother, of fearing that one day Wilbur might find out what he failed to do and hate him forever. But that wasn't hate. That was the opposite. Shh. Wilbur ran a hand through Tommy's hair. It's all right, Tommy. Let it all out. There was just the two of them in that moment. There were no voices, no ghosts, and no secrets. Just Wilbur and Tommy. Tommy and Wilbur. Eventually, Tommy's sobbing ebbed. His cheeks were wet and cold from his tears, but he could breathe easier than he ever did. He drew back from the circle of Wilbur's arms and found his brother looking at him with a gentleness that he could never deserve in 1,000 years. With a gentleness. Sorry. See? Wilbur said, delicately brushing stray tears from Tommy's cheeks. Isn't it lighter with someone else to carry it with? Tommy sniffled. You always have to be right, don't you? Well, of course. Otherwise, I'd be stripped of my title as a Grandmaster of Pretentiousness. The council would have a field day. Tommy laughed wetly. What will your voices say after you suffer such disgrace? Funny enough, Wilbur said softly. They're very quiet right now. So what happens now? Tommy whispered into the dark. I don't know, Wilbur confessed. But what I do know is that there should be no more secrets between brothers. Agreed? Agreed, Tommy smiled. No more secrets. Wilbur looked as if he wanted to say something else, but Tommy would never have the chance to find out what, because the same moment Techno burst through the door, his expression like hellfire. Wilbur was on his feet in an instant, reaching for a crumbled note Techno was holding out to him. Tommy watched his brother's face drain of all color as his eyes scanned through the message. What? Tommy demanded, his heartbeat ringing in his ears. What does it say? When Wilbur looked back at him, his eyes were bleak and haunted. You want to know what consumptions means? What consumptions were, Tommy? Conscriptions were for Tommy. God, Niki. Well, you're about to find out. Grr, I can't even read. I can't even finish this. Anyway, next chapter. Gosh. Chapter 4. Let's change the music again. Okay. Chapter 4. My birds of a kind. They were more and more are looking like centurions. Summary. All able-bodied citizens of the kingdom are called to the king's castle. The letter is all said, carried from bustling towns to quiet villages by messengers to the kingdom's most swift-footed horses and courier birds taking to the familiar wind-craved routes. War is coming, and it is time to defend your motherland.
Did you cry yet?
I didn't cry yet. But I had chills earlier. I had chills when they were talking about the mother. Notes? What is it? Wait, the notes? What is it with the notes? The notes? I don't know what the notes are about. Okay. Or warmth and the act of welcoming someone home. Ah! Hi, Nikki! Hi! Hi! Aw! Chapter triggers and content warnings are as follows. Aw. Violence, descriptions of violence, assault, and death. Ooh, okay, so these are some hard triggers. Keep them in mind, chat. 3 men stood on a balcony where once there were 2, a mortal king, a mortal prince, and their red-eyed teacher. In the gardens below, travelers were gathering, most weary from the journey from every corner of the vast kingdom. Even now, more were still pouring into the capital city, staring in wide-eyed confusion. A conscription notice tucked into the pockets of crushed between nervous fighters. Fingers, not fighters. Oh God, is this a hard one? This is where the field start? Okay, chat. We need better playlist. But okay, someone, I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause here. Someone said that Rambu's lore playlist is really good for this. Does he have it like Rambu's lore? How do I find it? How do I find mods? Do you know by any chance? DMCA? Is it DMCA? But Rambo uses it. But Rambo uses it. He doesn't? Ah, grr.
U4 by Novo Amor would be really fitting for this chapter.
Is it DMCA? I hate DMCA. I hate DMCA. Okay, chat, look at this one. Is this DMCA free? Does this mean that it is DMCA free? Coffee 1930? Coffee 1930. Yeah? No? Oh, Corey sent me something. Sunset have used in lore. Oh, bless. Thank you, Rambo. So these are DM. Okay, that I've used in lore. That means that they are DMCA free. It's only 4 songs. We can just loop them. Yeah. All right. Thank you, mods. Oh no, we're not gonna put them here. All right, let's continue then. Okay, let's start again. Let's start again from the start. 3 men stood on a balcony where there once were 2. A mortal king, a mortal prince, and their red-eyed teacher. In the gardens below, travelers were gathering, most weary from their journey from every corner of the vast kingdom. Even now, more were still pouring into the capital city, staring in wide-eyed confusion, a conscription notice tucked into their pockets or crushed between nervous fingers. All able-bodied citizens of the kingdom are called to the king's castle, the letter all says. Carried from bustling towns to quiet villages by messengers on the kingdom's most swift-footed horses and courier birds, taking to their familiar wind-crawled routes. War is coming, and it is time to defend your motherland. The conscription letter had gone on to specify that only those over the age of 18 were to be included in the king's army. Many had chosen to ignore that. Among the horde trickling slowly into the heart of the kingdom was a brown-haired boy, a year shy of the stipulated age. He kept the hood of his battered cloak up so no one could see the traces of boyhood still etched into his skin like a brand. Tabo? Ooh. Is it Tabo? Oh my god. Someone noticed. It was a girl with hair as pink as the hibiscuses. She grew in her gardens. She had lived in the city all her life. Once a man with the same hibiscus pink hair had walked into the flower shop, his eyes bleak and unfocused. He'd asked her if she had any yellow roses for sale, and had bought it all. Dream? Niki and Dream? It was only... No, I think it was Techno then. It was only later that she realized who the man was. By then he'd already left, heading towards the woods that bothered the city. Now she marched along the city streets that had come unfamiliar over the courses of a week. She'd left the garden to the care of an elderly neighbor. A sign was left on her flower shop door telling hopeful customers that it was closed indefinitely. There was nothing else to do now but follow the course of the crowd, keeping an eye on a stranger that was definitely much younger than her, wondering whether or not he'd outlive her. It's me! It's me! They passed underneath the castle gates. They were a woman that they called Captain Watchful Eye? Buffy! Sorry, she was under order to turn away anyone too young, too sick, too old, but every time she looked into their eyes, she only saw herself. She clawed her way to the position, made sure to earn her reputation, and had stood guard over the royal family for over a decade. It was her stubbornness that got her to where she was, adorned with medallions from the king, both old and new. It was stubbornness that she saw in these people now. So while she did her duty by bearing the way for the youngest, the sickest, and the oldest. If she turned away for a moment, when an aged warrior did her best to hide the wrinkles on the backs of her scarred hands, or when a 17-year-old boy pulled his hood lower over his face, or when a young-jawed smith from the city limped by her with a broken foot that wasn't quite healed yet, well, she would consider that her duty too. By the time the boy and the flower shopkeeper found themselves in the garden, it was crowded. People stood shoulder to shoulder, pushing and pulling like a tide on the template, reminds of the dead queen's flowers. The shopkeeper grimaced at her boots, treaded across petals and stems, violently returning them to their soil. The boy did not notice the flowers at all. He was staring up at the balcony, looking at the man whose call was answered by thousands. Most of them had never seen their king before, but they've all heard the stories of a boy crowned on the eve of his 16th birthday after his father's mysterious disappearance, or death, or assassination, depending on which rumors you believed. And guided by a strange advisor, a kingdom of peace would never have had any reasons to know the name Technoblade. But those who heard the folk story of a red-eyed emperor from a cold and distant land whispered amongst themselves at the resemblance or the coincidence, or whatever word they could use to explain away the uneasiness brewing at their gut. The stories also said that the king was kind and generous, with a starry-eyed ambition that came with his youth, and the younger prince could charm 1,000 detractors with his wit and humor. Standing together, they seemed to be as different as night and day, one dark, one light, but no one could deny the shared brotherhood etched into the regal bearing, both products of a boyhood almost drowned in etiquette and decorum. The prince shifted closer to his brother. "That's a lot of people, Will," he murmured. The king's eyes were unreadable in the hazy light of the clouded afternoon. "Not enough," he replied. The tutor crossed his arms as he surveyed the gathering crowd, already calculating battle positions and drafting strategies. This was, after all, not his first war, nor did he think it would be his last.
This is Pog. Pound.
"I'll oversee training as much as I can, for as long as we have time. I've identified some potential battalion leaders for the guards and the people who came earlier. I'll delegate a responsibility of training the newer recruits, which is most of them," Wilbur pointed out. "They never had a reason to learn how to fight before this." "You underestimate your people, Wilbur," Technoblade replied patiently. "There are other reasons besides war. Look, there. See that person with a bow? They're a hunter, used to shooting down fast-moving targets, which makes them an asset for our archery line. Folks from the mountain regions are used to riding on horsebacks, so that's our cavalry already established. Miners and smiths are used to swinging sharp and heavy objects around. Give them board swords instead of pickaxes and hammers. They'll be ready to go." We're kind of oh god, the music. Wilbur cutting a bemused look. "You sound almost optimistic. Did you hit your head on a wall this morning?" "I've seen worse odds." Tommy scoffed. "This is different from all your war books, Techno. This is real life." He did not notice the knowing look shared between his brother and their tutor. "Anyway," Technoblade continued, "I've reached out to the mercenary guilds to supplement our offensive. Our coffers can handle the hit, after all. This kingdom has only been busy with trade for the decades. And it all goes to shit anyway, Tommy asked. "And it all goes to shit anyway?" Tommy asked quietly. Technoblade's expression hardened. "It won't." "How can you be so sure?" demanded the young prince. "From what I've been hearing, we're nothing more than a bunch of poor saps armed with twigs against this... What did they call themselves?" "The Green Army," Wilbur replied, not taking his eyes off the people below them. "Ridiculous name, if you ask me," Technoblade said. Tommy did not laugh, as he usually would. "That message you received said they massacred the entire town, Wilbur," he he choked. An entire town wiped out overnight like ants. Wilbur's hands tightened around the balcony railings, his knuckles turning white and as he squeezed. They were taken by surprise. We will not be so unfortunate. One of them said the obvious. None of them said the obvious, which was the fact that if Wilbur had not held his secret so close to his chest, the town that once sat on their northern border might have survived. They might have been warned. They would have been saved from their merciless doom. Hypotheticals Technoblade had told him before were worthless and only crippled their way forward, but it still sat in the uneasy silence between them, broken only by the teacher saying, other towns along the Green Army's route have been evacuated. We should be expecting refugees to arrive in the city in 3 days, but the temporary camps will be finished and ready by then. And that's the truth about the army itself. And what's the status about the army itself? What am I reading? Based on the spies' reports, we have half a month at most before they arrive at the valley, which gives us nothing. Which gives us another week. What am I reading? Okay, 1 second. Based on the spies' reports, we have half a month at most before they arrive at the valley, which gives us another week to prepare the troops before we set out. The armory should be done tallying and dividing up the weapons by tomorrow, and caravans have been loaded with other supplies. And the other thing we planned? Gathering the materials as we speak. The alchemists are working as fast as they can, given that it is delicate work, but it should be done before we go. Good. Wilbur raised his head towards the sun, breathing in the last sweet winds of spring. As he did, Tommy and Technoblade were the only ones to notice the fresh scratch marks running down the pale column of his throat. Tommy opened his mouth to speak, but was silenced by a quiet shake of Techno's head. I guess it's time. In one smooth motion, Technoblade jumped onto the balcony railings, balancing precariously like an acrobat on the tightrope. His beloved trident in his hand, he drove the butt of the trident against the railings, producing a sound like a bell tolling, over and over until the crowd was almost silent, their attention caught. "Your king," he shouted, "will now speak. I suggest you listen." He dropped back between Tommy and Wilbur, who gave him a grateful smile before turning back to their people, their army. "Friends," Wilbur began, his voice carrying out the still crowd, now hanging on to his every word. "I see you all from where I stand. I understand you are afraid. You are confused. Years ago I promised you peace and my father's crown, and now I call you to war? This is nothing less than treason. Rest assured, I will be facing consequences for it." The crowd stirred. Even Tommy looked to his brother in surprise, a question swiftly dying on his lips as Wilbur spoke on. "But that will be later," the king continued. "For now, we face an enemy that has mercilessly slaughtered on our brethren on the northern border. That is what we shall keep in mind as we ready to face them. More than a battle to defend ourselves, this is a war of revenge. We shall remember the innocents lost and the nonsensical greed of our invaders, and I vow to deliver you your vengeance on a silver platter." Techno's eyes darkened, but he did not interrupt. His gaze drifted on the marble pavilion, sitting in the distance, right where the crowd stopped. Its chest had been proliferate. The blunted training weapons melted down to make sharper, deadlier blades. The ivy tumbling from his roof swayed slightly in the wind, offering him a brief glimpse at the empty, dust-covered floor beyond. He wondered if he'd ever set foot in it again. The shopkeeper was the only one not watching the kings as he spoke of bravery and keeping the faith. Instead, she followed the tutor's far off gaze, but all she could see was a small white building overgrown with... Oh, is the music coming? Yeah. Overgrown with weeds. Sorry, that's Binks. She's streaming, guys. Binks is streaming. This will not the end of our nation, the king said, with a note of finality, his dark eyes sweeping across the gathered crowd, but not seeing their faces at all. He spread his arms, as if welcoming an embrace from someone no one else could see. It has stood for centuries, and it will stand for centuries more. We will see our enemies burning. My friends, I will scatter their ashes on the graves of the people they took from us. And anyone who survives the fire will wish they had perished in the flames, and not by my hands. My only hope is that you might feel the same, and trust that you are in most capable hands I could find. He turned to the tutor. You are in the safekeeping and guidance of General Technoblade. Together, we will defend this kingdom, or die trying. The silence of the crowd gave way to thunderous applause. The exultant cry of hundreds of people who did not know truly what awaited them on the battlefield. The aged warrior with the scarred hands was intimately familiar with violence and turned bitterly away from the excitement. She had been like them once, but not longer. They would learn sooner or later, but it would not be a gentle lesson. However, they were united in some things. They trusted their young king and their prince. They trusted their general, and they wished to see their enemies burn. However, no, the boy in the crowd felt that unitedly down to his bones. This is it, he thought. This was it. This was what it meant to be a part of something, to belong. He felt a smile creep onto his face, and soon he was joining the noise, hollering until his lungs began to ache, joining in to the people's furious glee. He was going to hold the line. He was going to drive the enemy back and protect the land that raised him. And he was going to be a hero. At 17 years old, Tabo was the oldest he'd ever been, but he would never felt so young. Only one person did not seem impressed by the king's words. The tutor, turned general, was staring at the king, his mouth a thin line of disapproval. Since when did I get the promotion? Technoblade asked slowly. Wilbur shrugged, dismissive. You're already acting like a general anyway. Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
You still playing games?
I haven't started.
What do you mean you haven't started?
I'm still reading.
You're still what?
I'm still reading.
What are you reading?
Passerine.
Is that what you were doing
fanfiction.
first?
Yeah.
Oh. Hi, chat.
What's up?
Minx is also here. What are you talking about? She's reading fanfic right now.
No, it's not
It's
that
not
kind of
sexy
fanfic.
It's just
It's not that kind of fanfic.
It's just normal fanfic.
Yeah.
Hi, chat. Any primers for Niki? Any...
Do you want to say hi too?
You want to say hi to chat? Hi, chat.
Are you guys still streaming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were like, we did because we were screaming.
That's
Hi
okay.
guys! What fanfic are you reading? Is it Wattpad?
No, it's AO3. It's a fanfiction about the Sleepy Boys.
Wattpad is the best fanfic out there. I'm a Wattpad supporter. I started on that.
Wattpad is not just one fanfiction.
I did.
Careful, Wilbur.
We're going to win, Tommy said, his ears still ringing. I mean, they're writing good though.
They are writing pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. There are a lot of big words that I don't understand or know how to say though.
Like what?
But chat is fine with it. This one?
Like, what, centuries?
Anchovies.
We don't even
That's
pronounce
not
it
a
that.
real
We're
word.
native English speakers.
Well, enjoy your fanfic.
Thank you.
We love you.
We
I love you
If you want
too.
to hang out with us, we would love to hang out.
We
But-
wanna
Sounds
hang out
good.
with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We miss you.
Such a
Aw.
Come on.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Let's go.
Have fun.
Bye.
Who's,
Love you,
wait,
Niki.
wait,
Do your fanfic.
wait.
What?
Who's the man voice I'm hearing?
We found him down the bar.
Oh.
Come on, dude. We got a fucking traitor.
Pussy.
Alright, bye. Well, that happened. Anyway, chat, let's go back to angst. It's not really angst yet, is it? When did I get the promotion? Technoblade asked slowly. Uber shrugged, dismissive. Thank you for the 5 good sub, much, you know? I appreciate it. Uber shrugged, dismissive. You already acted like a general anyway. But Technoblade. The king's voice turned cold as he started his old tutor down. You promised to help me. Was that a lie? Technoblade's eyes flashed dangerously. Careful, Wilbur, he said quietly. You're forgetting who you're talking to right now. Wilbur blinked, his eyes suddenly clearing. He opened his mouth for some sort of retort, perhaps an apology. But then... Thank you for all the snaps. But then there was Tommy. Brilliant, loud Tommy. Leaning so far over the railings, Technoblade had to pull him back by the back to his shirt. When he turned to them, he was beaming, his eyes bright in the afternoon gloom. We're going to win, Tommy said, his ears still ringing from the crowd's approval. We're actually going to win, aren't we? Wilbur and Techno exchanging one glance, as all was forgiven. The conversation shelved for another day. The general still looked at the king with something close to concern, but the dark circles under the king's eyes were getting harder and harder to ignore each day. But none of that mattered anymore. If Tommy said they were going to win, then by the gods, neither of them would tell him otherwise. Not when he looked the happiest he'd ever been in a month. By this time next month, we'll be back to worrying about trade routes and bothersome psychopaths, Wilbur assured him. What the hell? Oh no, is it not psychopaths? What the hell are psychopaths? What the hell is a psychopath? Gods. The king gave his brother a look that was equal parts of annoyed and adoring. Remind me to hire a better linguistics tutor for you when we get home. I don't know what psychopaths are. When we get home. Tommy rolled his eyes. Sorry if you hear screaming. You don't know either? Okay, let's see. Let's see, chat. A person who acts obsequiously towards someone important in order to gain advantage. Obedient or attentive to an excessive or severe degree. There you go. All right. Tommy rolled his eyes. Good luck finding someone that can stand me. I'll chase anyone away in 3 days at most. But bet your whole damn life on it. Bet your whole damn life on it. Uber grinned at Technoblade. I can think of one person. Techno, you will... Finish that sentence, Technoblade drawled in his usual monotone manner, and I will end your bloodline right on this balcony. I will throw you off, witnesses be damned. As the king and the prince dissolved into laughter for one shining moment, children again, Technoblade found himself smiling. The sky was dark and bleak, but there, on that balcony, there was sunlight. It's you and me, said Technoblade. putting one hand on top of Tommy's head and one on Wilbur's shoulder. One more time. The blue valley stretched before Tommy, disappearing into the hazy horizon. The two mountains that bordered the valley rose menacingly in front of him, twin endpoints at the imposing mountain ranges that served as the kingdom's natural borders. A river ran through the middle of the valley, lit into liquid gold by the sun slowly rising over the distant hills. All in all, Tommy thought as he breathed in the cold dawn air, this could not be the worst looking place to die in. The valley was named after a blue iris that thrived in it, linking the cliffsides and blooming along the riverbanks. But they were not the flowers Tommy was in search for. He ventured down the hillside, keeping his eyes close to the ground. He'd roll up his pant legs to keep them dry from the morning dew that clung to the underbrush. But he left everything below his knees vulnerable to the traps that had been set up around camp. One wrong move and he'd lose a foot for his troubles, but he was determined to make the trip worth it. It had been weeks since they'd arrived at the valley, and while that meant most of their preparations were finished, it also meant that the other shoe would drop any day now. Tommy could feel it breathing down his neck. The only way to combat it was relentless distraction, keeping his hands busy, so he traveled down the hill, one careful step at a time, until a flash of yellow in his purpuree caught his attention. "Found you," he said, making his way over the flowers clustered under a rock, almost indistinguishable from their blue iris neighbors, if it weren't for the golden center that earned them their name. Then Tommy strolled back into camp. He had fistful of morning glories clutched in his hands and a grin on his face. Everybody was already awake, clustered around cook fires, going through morning exercises or just milling about. Someone had brought their guitar, and its soft music echoed above the sounds of conversation and laughter. People raised their heads when Tommy passed, calling his name or waving him over to join them for breakfast. He cheerfully declined, but not before exchanging jokes and pleasantries with some of the more familiar folk. It was easy to miss the shadows this way. In the right light, he might miss the tousled hair of those that had not slept in days, or the bleak look on the captain's face, quickly hidden by a stained smile, or the smell of sulfur that clung to their clothes like a nasty, unrelenting parasite. It's pretty tragic, isn't it? The question stopped Tommy, dead in his tracks. He turned towards the person who'd asked and found himself in front of a girl, seated by a grindstone, slowly sharpening a small blade. "Pardon?" The girl smiled as she nodded towards the flower in his hand. "Morning glories. They wilt the same day that they bloom, lasting only until the sun sets." She paused. "Maybe less, now that you've picked them." Tommy flushed with embarrassment, suddenly getting the urge to hide the bouquet behind his back, as if that might somehow erase what he did. "I'm sorry, I didn't think about..." The girl simply laughed. No, don't be. I would be the world's biggest hypocrite if I told you off for picking flowers. At Tommy's confused look, she explained, "I own a flower shop back in the city." "Oh!" Tommy looked down the flowers clutched in his hand, his brows furrowing as he thought, It is sad, I suppose, that they die so quickly, but aren't they beautiful where they last?" The grindstone slowly ground to a halt as the girl merely sat there, staring at Tommy with an inexplicable expression on her face. Well, thought Tommy, this is awkward. You know, Your Highness, the girl said at length, you remind me of someone. He's a soldier in this camp and about your age as well. He's off somewhere training right now, but I have this feeling that if you'd only meet, you'd make good friends. Tommy opened his mouth to reply, but found he could not. He could only nod in agreement. The girl gave him a small, sad smile, as if she could understand his silence even more than if he had spoken, and went back to her work. Tommy pried his feet from the ground and began walking towards the heart of the camp, but the girl's words followed close to his heels. That was the true tragedy, wasn't it? More than the flowers that had only bloomed for a day, the bitterest devastation was in the what-ifs. Tommy didn't understand why, but he found himself lingering one scenario, a different life where he had met that person that he reminded the girl of. Where neither of them were young soldiers. You'd make good friends, she said. But that wasn't right, Tommy felt. Inexplicably, down to his bones, that if he'd met a boy, they would be brothers. If we moved this battalion there, they could provide cover, but we would also run the risk of... Tommy? Tommy looked up. He hadn't even realized he'd entered the tent. He found Wilbur standing at the large desk that took up the most room, leaning over a map, littered with small caved pieces that preserved various troop positions. Beside him, his hair unbound, was Technoblade. Both were staring at Tommy with concern. What? He demanded. You're crying, Tommy, Wilbur said softly. Tommy touched his free hand to the cheek, and was surprised to find it come away wet. He rubbed furiously at his eyes until they were clear of tears. This was not the time. This was not the fucking time. He strode deeper into the tent, ignoring the worried look Wilbur threw Techno, and Techno's answering shrug. Tommy stopped at the corner of the map and pointed to a cluster of carved archers clustered on what would be the hill they were currently on. We don't need that many, he said determinedly. Just one. Just you, Wilbur. Wilbur seemed frustrated by the change of topic, but had no choice other than to follow his little brother's lead. You're overestimating my aim, Tommy. Tommy drifted away from the map, throwing himself on a spare chair in the corner. He gestured Techno over, and the general silently complied. You always pull through when it matters, Tommy said, as Techno took a seat on the ground in front of him, his back to Tommy. As Tommy gathered Technoblade's head into his lap, he added, except the many, many times you lost a duel with Techno. Normally, this would warrant a chuckle, or at the very last, an indignant eye roll, but Wilbur simply leaned over the map again, his expression shattered once more. Techno turned to Tommy and whispered, we must not break his intense, beast-like focus. Tommy snorted. The only beast-like thing about him is that tangled lion's mane he calls hair. Wilbur's head snapped up to glare at them both. I heard that. Of course you did, Techno said, turning back away. Lions have unpropelled sense of hearing. Back to classical music? Are we going back to classical music? No. You're in an ad? Oh, are you? Do you have ads? No? Yeah. Okay. People are still here though. That's good. All right. Sorry, I need to go to the bathroom. I don't want to stop, but I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna do that real quick. We're here. But I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. You can talk to Jack. Wait. Wait, Jack. I'll make you big again. You can talk to Jack. I'll see you in a bit. Hi, I'm back. How are you doing so far? Oh yeah, love it, crying already, the quality of the writing. Jack. Jack. Oh, no, I didn't want to move that. I wanted to move you, chat. Alright. I hope Jack was nice, chat. But we're back now. And we're going to continue. Tommy laughed quietly to himself as he began braiding Techno's hair, his finger making knots with the ease that came with his years of practice. This had been their entire routine for the past week. Wilbur would pore over the battle plans with wild-eyed obsession that got more and more frenzied by the day. Techno would call out every flaw in Wilbur's proposed changes until they encountered one that seemed to be actually useful, and Tommy would braid. Thank you for the sub. Tommy would braid. It kept his hands busy. If it weren't for the distraction of Techno's hair between his fingers, Tommy would most likely join the flower shop girl over the grindstone, mindlessly polishing over his spare until doomsday. Sometimes Tommy would wake up in the middle of the night and find his brother still awake, reviewing their plans and muttering to himself. Well, not to himself. The voices. The mysterious, omniscient, creepy as hell voices that had plagued his brother for years. Tommy began to weave the morning glories he found into Techno's hair to hide the fact that his hands had started shaking. Two nights before had been the worst of it. Tommy had been awoken by the noise of glass shattering. Opening his eyes, he found Wilbur standing over his cot, a shard of broken glass clutched in his hands and raised over his head, already ready to strike into Tommy's chest. Tommy had stopped breathing completely. "Will?" he said, his voice coming out meek and trembling. We're meant to kill you," Wilbur croaked, blood dripping down his arm from how tightly he was holding the broken glass. "We're going to kill you, Tommy. It's fate. It's meant to be." "Wilbur!" Tommy reached out to clutch at his brother's shirt. "Wilby, please don't hurt me." Wilbur blinked rapidly, his eyelashes glistening with unshed tears. "You haven't called me that in such a long time." And the glass shard had dropped, but not into Tommy's flesh, into the ground beside his cot, driven into the soft dirt. Wilbur had kneeled beside him for the rest of the night, whispering apologies, and chased Tommy into his uneasy sleep. By morning, Wilbur seemed to have completely forgotten the incident, or chosen to ignore it completely. and Tommy was already plucking flowers off the hillside with shaky fingers. Tommy looked up now to find white cloth tied around Wilbur's left hand, where the glass had cut into his skin. It was the only evidence that night had not been a dream, and that Wilbur's voices were slowly taking over. It must be the stress, Tommy thought, as he braided the last of the morning glories into Techno's hair. When the war was over, Wilbur would be back to normal again, and Tommy could go back to not being absolutely terrified of his brother. Done, Tommy said at last, flicking Techno's finished braid over Techno's shoulder. Finally, Techno stood up and plucked one of the morning glories of his hair. He tucked it behind Tommy's ear before moving over to one of the chests tucked under the table. Consider this a sign of my gratitude. He opened the chest and pulled out something dark and folded. When he unfurled it, Tommy shot to his feet, his eyes going wide at the blue and red coat that Techno held up, its golden buttons gleaming, the royal coat of arms stitched over where Tommy's heart would be. They finished it. Tommy couldn't help but laugh out that bubbled out of him. They actually finished it. Gods, Tommy, Techno said with a small smile. It's a uniform. But it wasn't just that. And Techno knew that. He and Wilbur had received their own uniforms weeks before. The general and the king in their bold colors, in the chaos of preparation.
Hi.
Hi.
Nix would like to give you a kiss.
She would like to give me a kiss?
Yes.
Okay.
She'd like to receive it, but she's sitting down on the stool right now.
She can give me a kiss on the cheek. I'll be right there.
Okay.
Hype train.
They're all drunk, by the way, chat. They're all drunk. Okay, let me just finish it until here. But it wasn't just that, and Techno knew it. He and Wilbur had received their own uniforms weeks before. The general and the king in their bold colors. In the chaos of preparation, no one had noticed the prince following in their wake in a simple white tunic until the very last minute. And now, the tailors had done it. They actually finished it. Tommy bounded up to Techno, grinning so hard he thought his cheeks might split from the pure glee. Techno rolled his eyes, but held out the coat for Tommy to slip into. It fit perfectly. Tommy sprung in a small circle before giving Techno a mocking blow. Sir General! Techno returned the gesture. Your Highness! Alright. You two, Wilbur said, and Tommy could hear the smile in his voice, however faint, are so stupid. Alright, I'm gonna quickly go. I'll be right back, chat. Go talk to Jack. Sorry. Alright, I'm back. So sorry, chat. we're having emotional times here. Alright, let's continue. He's rude to you? Jack! Be nice to chat. Okay. Tommy waltzed over to his brother, knocking the carved piece that Wilbur was about to put down on the map. Over the sounds of Wilbur's protests, Tommy grabbed his hand and pulled him along, humming a vaguely familiar tune, spinning him in slow circles that could be called a dance under the loosest of definitions. Wilbur went slacks as Tommy continued to hum the song, allowing Wilbur to spin him more and more. God, okay. I can't believe you still remember that, Wilbur said softly, his expression unfathomable. Remember what? That song. And then they heard it, the sound that turned Tommy's blood cold. The sound that made Tommy and Wilbur freeze in their tracks. The sound that made techno reach instinctively towards both of them. The drums of war, echoing over camp, eclipsing the music of a guitar, the conversations of friends, the screaming of a blade against a grindstone, the thud, thud, thud of a 17-year-old soldier practicing his archery against a dark oak tree, the thud, thud, thud of the army's collective heartbeat, the thud, thud, thud of 1,000 feet, marching closer and closer. The enemy had arrived at the Blue Valley. They emerged from the mist like specters, a hazy sunlight grinding off the polished blades. Up to the hill, Techno could see them moving through the valley in a steady stream. The soldiers indistinguishable in their tight formation. At the front, someone bore their flag, 2 swords crossed on a simple green background. The sight of it made Techno ball up his fist with a sudden, undeniable anger. This was it. It seemed like the entirety of a green army was there, as expected. While the valley would serve as a checkpoint in the royal army's favor, it was also the only direct path towards the heart of the kingdom. So now the both sides were going to throw all their pieces on the board. One decisive battle, a quick end. Only one army would emerge from this valley intact, and Techno would be deemed if it wasn't Wilbur's. Wilbur's eyes were locked on the mountains. No, Techno turned to the king standing beside him. Are you ready? Wilbur's eyes were locked on the mountains. Ready as I will ever be. The camp behind them was empty. Everyone was in position, moving like clockwork under the order that they'd been practicing for days. The only ones left on the hill were Wilbur, Tommy, and Techno, and the archers. Tommy bounded up to them at last, his chest heaving with effort. They send up the flare, he announced breathlessly. It's go time. Wilbur turned towards the group of the archers behind him. Between them was a raging campfire, sending flickering shadows over Wilbur's face as he took the arrow from his quiver and dripped its cloth-covered point into the flames. The dozen archers, the best of the best, handpicked by Wilbur himself, copied him wordlessly. The cloth, smothered in a special incendiary fuel, would burn faithfully until it reached its mark. I'm very quiet? Really? I can come closer. I'm fine? Okay. Wilbur turned back towards the valley, knocking the arrows into his bow. With deep breath, he pulled the arrow back and aimed towards the sky behind him. The archers did the same. Hold! He ordered. The green army marched closer. Hold! Techno felled. A hand closed around him, nails digging into his palm, and looked down to find Tommy staring intently at the approaching forces, his eyes unblinking. They were close enough now that Techno could see the glare of dawning sun bouncing off their beast plates. Wordlessly, Techno squeezed Tommy's hand. Now, Techno thought, it has to be now. At the same time, Wilbur called out, "Fire!" A dozen and one burning arrows arched out over the valley like comets of red and gold. The Green Army paused, perhaps in confusion at the pathetic display of force. Just 13 arrows soaring across the air. It would not even hit their front lines. But that didn't matter. They were not the intent target. Once upon a time, Wilbur's aim had been so poor, he would have taken nothing short of divine intervention to correct it. So Techno corrected it. Now, Wilbur shot true. His arrow landed amongst the weeds, and then there was fire. It felt like the whole valley was set ablaze. The heat searing Techno's skin, even from where he stood. The burning arrows had ignited the line of fire that ran horizontally through the valley, cutting the Green Army off completely. Soldiers from the Royal Army had doused that area in the ever-burning fuel the moment they saw the enemy coming, and then promptly fell back into the mountains, taking shelter from the next phase. The fire would not hold them off forever. Wilbur gave a signal, and the archers scattered to the next positions, leaving the three of them truly alone, watching the wall of fire for the first signs of life. It came in the form of a man in a white cloak, stepping through the flames like it was merely an inconvenience. He shrugged off the heat, flicking an ember off his shoulder before his eyes found them on the hill. He pointed his sword straight at Wilbur. "This isn't a white flag of surrender, Techno," Wilbur said quietly. "No, it's not," Techno replied, finally letting go of Tommy's hand and reaching for his trident. It was a long shot anyways. A little heat is nothing to mass murderers. "You should know," his voice purred. "This is not the time for your sass," Techno thought back, as if that might stop the age-old melody that was starting to play in his head. The rest of the enemy army followed after the man in white, less gracefully but stubbornly, like God's maned cockroaches crawling over the valley. And then there was a battle cry, ringing from all directions as the Royal Army appeared from their hiding spots, in trees or in the weeds, from the river and from the mountains, and catching their enemy by surprise. But the Green Army was well trained. They recovered swiftly, and though most of their army was stuck behind the fire, they were biting back. It wasn't long until bodies were dropping, and not just the enemies. Techno's hand tightened around his Techno's hand tightened around his trident as the valley filled with sounds of war, but it was not out of fear. Techno would never admit it out loud, but he could feel something almost like excitement pounding through his veins. This was familiar. This was something he knew. Deep in his bones, he could do it without failure. Being Wilbur's teacher, and then Tommy's, that had been terrifying. But this was nothing. This was just another battle to fight, just another war to win. "We need help," Tommy said, his feet already moving down the hill. Wilbur's hands shot out, dragging Tommy backwards. Both Techno and Tommy looked at him in surprise. But Wilbur was looking past them, at the carnage happening right below their feet, his eyes dark as the earth of a fleshy, dark grave. "Wilbur?" Tommy asked, in astonishment. Wilbur blinked rapidly, like he was coming out of a dream. "Not yet," he said quietly. "What do you mean, not yet?" Tommy demanded, pulling himself out of Wilbur's grip. "Our people are dying down there." "Wilbur," Techno spun Wilbur by the shoulders towards him. "We have to go now."
So Niki, your reading is so calming.
Thank you. "We have to go now." Tommy took a rattling breath. I know, goddammit, I know. And Wilbur. Why do I keep misreading the name? Sorry. Wilbur took a rattling breath. I know, goddammit, I know. He glanced at Tommy, standing beside them, with his face down in confusion. But I can't let Tommy. Don't talk about me like I'm not fucking here, Tommy said angrily. Wilbur, this is neither the time nor place to underestimate me. We need to fucking go. Tommy, Wilbur said, staring at Tommy in shock. I never underestimate you. Then prove it. Let's go. You're right. Tired resignation colored Wilbur's words. But stay close to me. He looked grimly back at Techno. Don't lose yourself out there. Techno could hear the warning in his voice. Take your own advice, Your Majesty, Techno replied sourly, taking in Wilbur's wide eyes and trembling hands. I'm serious, Techno. Wilbur's expression hardened as he lowered his voice, speaking to Techno, and to Techno only, while Tommy was distracted by the fire below. This is a direct order from your king. Keep them in check. He thinks he can control you, the voices whispered. He thinks he's your master. You will prove them right. Like the loyal little dog you are. I promise, Wilbur, Techno said. After all domesticated dogs, someone once said, still fucking by it. All right, Wilbur said, shouldering his bow with a long determination. Let's go to war, boys. The first time the captain killed someone, she was 15. She would have killed her. He would have killed her. She had seen it in his eyes, lost to a drunken frenzy in a small, lonely tavern far from here. He'd come at her with his heavy hands, and so she'd taken a bottle from one of the tables and broke it against the side of his head. And when that hadn't been enough to stop him, she'd shoved the sharp pieces clean into his throat. She'd run from the tavern right after, run from the town, and didn't stop running until she reached the kingdom capital, where a king with mercy, sewn into his smile, had offered her a job, a home, a life that ensured no man would ever dare cross her again. But even after these years, the captain could still remember the feeling of skin giving way beneath the sharpness of her weapon. She could still see the man's face, contorting with pain and disbelief, barely able to process that was happening before the death tours took him. She could still hear him choking on his own blood, gurgling wetly before he was finally still. Thank you for the gifted sub. But there was a moment between the killing and the running where she merely sat beside the corpse of her own doing, numb and empty and cold. The soldiers this time would not be so lucky. She could see it in their faces, the ones who'd never seen a day of violence in their lives, making their first kills right in front of her. She could see some of them hesitate, panic, fall into the same abyss she did once before. Most shook themselves out of it, their brains shelving the damage for another day. But others stood frozen, caught in their own thoughts until the comrades found them, or their enemies did. The captain could not help. She wanted to, more than anything, because wasn't that her job? Wasn't she meant to protect them? And then another enemy would come flying her way, and all she could think about was staying alive and surviving till the next hour, the next minute, the next breath. The Green Army had already begun to find ways through the wall of fire, and it wouldn't be long until the rest of them would arrive with a vengeance. The captain swung her gladius, deflecting the oncoming blow of an enemy before thrusting her blade deep into his chest. She did not look to see him fall. She was already moving across the battlefield, slicing her way towards a group of royal soldiers pinned between a rocky incline and half a dozen enemies. She took 2 down before the rest noticed her, and the captain found her facing 4 people at once. With a shield in one hand and her sword in the other, there was little the captain could do to face them down. This is it, she thought. This is my final stand. You little shit, one of them spat at her. You think you're so brave, all on your own? They smirched towards her, and the captain raised her shields instinctively for a blow that never came. When she looked again, she found all 4 soldiers dead to the ground, with a man in a red and blue coat and flowers in his hair standing over the still twitching bodies. Blood dripped down the prongs of his trident, too much to have come from just the 4 bodies. 4 throwing knives were already missing from the bandolier across his chest, and the expression in his face was cold enough to freeze hell. "Stop staring and get back to work, soldier," Technoblade said. The very same Technoblade the captain had seen carrying the small prince in his shoulders around the castle. The same Technoblade that's shuffled uncontrollably in 2 tight suits at formal functions that he nevertheless always saw through to the end. The same Technoblade that the past king, the captain savior, entrusted with his sons. The captain could barely recognize him, but then again, something in the back of her mind told her that she was truly seeing him for the first time. She'd heard the rumors, the whispers, the questions about how he never seemed to change over the years. She disregarded all of that now. He was the man who'd just saved her life. Nothing else mattered in war. She saluted. "Sir, yes, sir." "Sir, yes, sir." With a current nod, Technoblade was off, merely a blur of color cutting a violent path across the valley, his trident flashing in the sunlight. A whimper caught the captain's attention, and she turned back to the royal soldiers that she'd been trying to rescue. "Are you alright?" she asked them. One of them, a fresh recruit she did not recognize, blubbered. "Who the hell was that?" "That was your bloody general." "That was your bloody general," she snapped. "So you can stop cowering in your corner now. The blade has just joined the fight." The laughter was the worst of it. Wilbur could feel it growing louder in his head. The sound of 1,000 different voices laughing at a joke he was not privy to. A joke with him as the punchline. But then the still healing wounds in his hand would ache, reminding him of what he'd done and where he was. He was standing on a rock. Feet bracing against moss, feeling distant enemies with arrows. He was King Wilbur, protector of the realm, ruler of the kingdom, lead of the royal army, and he'd brought all these people here. And he was not going to let them down. He could spot Tommy's golden head below him, clearing out the enemies that slipped by Wilbur's shots. He was good. Frighteningly good. It was easy to forget how capable Tommy was at destruction. He was so used to seeing Tommy lose against Techno that he'd forgotten that against anyone else, Tommy was a force to be reckoned with on his own. But that did not do much to dispel the worry tightening in Wilbur's gut. He was, after all, also an older brother. Tommy launched himself at an incoming enemy, spear out. The enemy swung with his sword, but Tommy ducked just in time, swept his legs out to knock the man over. Wilbur saw the spare piece clean through, and the body was still twitching on the ground before Tommy was whirling around to face another. This one didn't even get a meter near Tommy before Wilbur had put an arrow through their throat. Tommy whirled around and flashed Wilbur a grin. "Not bad, Archer boy." Despite everything, Wilbur managed a small smile. A smile that slipped from his face when a sudden mention flickered in the corner of his vision. "Watch out! Tommy, watch out!" Wilbur shouted, just as the enemy soldier barreled into Tommy. The two of them tumbled into the dirt, a tangle of limbs and blades. Wilbur fumbled for an arrow and found his quiver empty. Shit, the voices agreed happily. Wilbur hurriedly swung his bow over his shoulder and, in the same breath, unsheathed his twin rapiers from their scabbards. He dropped down from his perch, his teeth rattling on impact, the pain not registering because Tommy's in trouble. The enemy soldier had Tommy pinned to the ground, the sword raised over his head and ready to drop. Tommy was thrashing, desperately reaching for the spear that had been knocked out of his hand, but Wilbur was already kicking the enemy violently off him. The enemy rolled across the ground, allowing Wilbur to stand between him and Tommy, the twin swords flashing mercilessly in the flickering firelight. "Get the fuck away from my brother," he hissed. "You touching? How touching?" "How touching," the soldier said mockingly. He was different from the others, Wilbur could tell. He didn't know how exactly, but he just was. His eyes and hair were black as coal, in stark contrast to the blood-stained white cloak he wore around his shoulders. "You," Wilbur said, brows furrowing. "I saw you walk through the fire. How?" The man scoffed. You think that little stunt could hurt me?" He raised his blaze upon closer inspection. It looked to be made of pure obsidian, pitch black all the way down to the hilt. "I was born fire." "Are you the leader of this army?" Wilbur demanded. He gave a short bark of laughter. "Me? No. I'm merely a pawn in this game. A pawn with a grudge to settle, but still a pawn nonetheless." He grinned. "Now, show me what he taught you, King." Wilbur didn't need to be told twice. He launched himself at the man, blue irises crunching beneath his feet. Their swords met, and from there it was a dance. Blades flashed as Wilbur began pushing the man backwards, but he was matching Wilbur's hit for it. Wilbur thrusted forwards with his left sword, but the man dodged fluidly before swinging his sword in the mean arc that would have taken Wilbur's head clean off if he had not stepped backwards. From there, the man launched his offense, striking from above, but Wilbur managed to cross his rapies together and blocked the hit just in time. The blow reverberated. The blow reverberated. Reverberated. I don't know how to say it. Reverberated down to Wilbur's bones. Reverberated down to Wilbur's bones, but the man gave him no time to recover. Pushing his blade harder against Wilbur's, Wilbur dug his head into the ground and parried, using the man's weight against him. He'd hoped it could cause the man to stumble and end his matter once and for all, but instead, the man swung again, finding another overhead strike before changing to a side hit at the last moment. Reverberated. He reverberated. Wilbur blocked the bow. Wilbur blow. I'm broken. I'm broken. I'm sorry. Anyways, Wilbur blocked the blow, but the force of it sent him crashing to the ground. The white-cloaked soldier stood over him, a small smile playing in his lips. "That was disappointing," he said, spinning his sword lazily between his fingers as if he had all the time in the world. "At the very least, I expected a man trained under a god. Under a god of blood to, well, actually draw some." Wilbur froze. He glared up at the man standing before him, suddenly understanding. "You here for techno?" The man stopped spinning his sword. I'm surprised he told you what he is. You must mean a lot to him." His smile was slow and cold. That makes this all more fun. He raised a sword and brought it crashing down. It might have been hours, it might have been days, it might have even been the space of one breath and another. Technoblade could no longer tell. More and more of enemy were finding ways to breach the wall of fire. The royal army's archers were doing their best to snipe them down before they could join the ferry. But their dreadful lack of experience was beginning to show. Cracks were forming. They were nearing the break point. No, Techno thought. Trident in one hand and a bone-handled chain whip in another. Not if I can help it. He found himself in the thick of it, drawn not to the violence, but to the sound of Wilbur's people, his people, calling for help, a god's help. Blood, the voices demanded. Blood for the blood god. But Techno didn't want blood. Not today. He wanted justice. Get down! The royal army soldier that had gathered around him. He told the royal army soldier that had gathered around him. Techno realized with a jolt that they had not come to him to ask for his protection, but to give him theirs. As if their fragile mortal bodies might make a difference when it came to him. Fools, he wanted to say, but all that came out was, "On the ground, all of you, now!" They were quick to comply. They drove into the weeds just as Techno lashed out with his whip. The heavy chain caved an arc through the air before finding its mark. Wrapping around the neck of an enemy soldier, Techno pulled sharply, knocking the soldier down. He shook the whip free and spun it around to hit an incoming enemy straight in the head. There was a sickening crunch as the force of the whip crushed bone. Before the body hit the ground, Techno spun the whip towards the targets, aiming for throats, temples, ankles, anything to pull or crush. He was standing in the eye of the storm, his whip cracking through the air like lightning. When the chain whip rattled back into his hands again, it was wet with blood. "You can get up now," he told the soldiers that were staring dazedly up and that were staring dazedly up at him from the ground. "Take care of the strugglers." The strugglers? One of them called out. The strugglers? One of them called out incredulously. But Techno was already moving again. He launched himself into the air, for a brief moment flying weightlessly over the carnage, and then he crashed down his trident, impaling a man to the earth. He pulled the trident out with a sickening squench, and then threw a throwing knife right into the eye of an approaching soldier. Another came running towards him, but he made quick work of them too. This was his element. This was where he belonged. More, the voices demanded. More, more, more. This was not his element. This was not where he belonged. He was under strict orders from the king to keep himself in check, and he would not falter now. And then he heard it. Techno could not explain how he heard it over the sound of swords clashing and people dying and fires burning. It was as if his very soul had only been listening for that sound and nothing else. In the far distance, a scream. When he was a child, Tommy had tried to scale the side of the castle. He did not remember the fall, but he remembered the crash. He remembered the feeling of his bones splintering underneath him. The pain, so blinding that he almost passed out. He didn't know who eventually found it, but he eventually woke up in his bedroom, his left arm in a sling, and Wilbur asleep by his bedside. Techno had been leaning against the wall, glaring at him. "He's been there for days," Techno said. "You really scared the shit out of him, Tommy." It was the angriest Techno had ever been at him, and that was the most Tommy understood. And that was the moment Tommy understood that what he had really meant was Tommy scared the shit out of both of them. As the white-cloaked man's sword broke through the shaft of Tommy's spear and into Tommy's shoulder, he remembered that pain and felt it thousandfold. He felt the blade break through skin and embed itself in his collarbone, and there was only fire in his veins. Tommy! He felt Wilbur's hand pulling him back, and they both stumbled backwards, Tommy still clutching the broken ends of the spear he tried to shield Wilbur with. Tommy fell to his knees, the pain making everything go white. I'm going to pass out, he thought. I'm going to die. Little hero, the man grumbled as he approached them once again, the edge of his sword dripping with Tommy's blood. You're only delaying the inevitable. Now sit still as I put you down. Tommy. Wilbur's hands were on him, pressing against his wound. Tommy, Tommy, come here. I'll fix you, I'll fix you. Tommy, no, Wilbur, Tommy croaked as the white-cloaked man advanced. Wilbur, the enemy. Say your goodbyes, princeling. The man crackled, raising his sword one final time. Tommy grabbed Wilbur, even his entire body trembled with the movement, covering his older brother's body with his own. He shut his eyes, waiting for the coup de grace. It never came. Hi, Raiders! Thank you, Mings, for the raid! I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. We're reading Passerine, which is a fan fiction about the Sleepy Boys. We are at a very intense part right now. As you might have heard. I hope you had a good stream. I hope you had fun.
3 months with the alt. Let's go, love you, Niki.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyways, disclaimer for the people who are now here. I am German. I'm not native English speaking. There are a few words that I don't know or don't know how to say. I don't know how to read. I will stutter here and there. I'm trying my best. Trying my best. Just so you know. Just a little disclaimer. But I hope you had a good stream. I hope you well. Let's continue. When Tommy looked back again, he found Technoblade standing over him, blocking the man's sword with his trident. Finally, the man growled, pushing against the shaft of Techno's trident. I've been waiting for you, you bloody bastard. Techno cocked his head to the side, considering the man at length. He said monotonously, don't fucking know you. The man's eyes hardened. You killed them. You took them both away from me and you don't even remember? He jumped back, cutting the air between them with a sword, splattering the ground by Techno's feet with Tommy's blood. Yeah?
I have a question.
Okay.
Can I come out there and ask?
Huh?
Can I come over there and ask?
Yeah. Do you want me to mute? Because I'm still live. Okay.
I'm drunk though.
I know you're drunk.
Hello everybody, hi. Why do you like men?
Oh my god, what? I don't just like men.
Sorry. Anyway, we're going somewhere, so.
You're going somewhere?
You know
okay.
where.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll message you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can ask me a question.
What if we kill men?
What if we kill men?
Yeah. No? How you feeling?
I mean, some men, maybe.
All of them? Maybe. Nah, I'm kidding, bro. Fuck man. Anyway, you're your fanfiction. Okay, fist bump.
I come visit you later, like join you later after the stream.
Please do.
All right, have fun.
Men deserve to die. I'm kidding. Everyone knows I'm kidding, dude. I'm kidding. Oh my god. Here we go.
Oh my god. What just happened? What just happened? Oh god. Well, anyways, let's start here again. Oh god. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. For the people who were in Ming's stream and who just came here, did Jack drink or was it just Ming's and Rihanna? So is Jack taking care of them? All of them drunk? Okay. Okay, I'll check on them later. I'll check on them after the stream. They'll be fine. Okay. Anyway. The man's eyes hardened. You killed them. You took them both away from me and you don't even remember? He jumped back, cutting the air between them with his sword, splattering the ground by Techno's feet with Tommy's blood. That's alright. I'll just make you remember. Techno turned to look at Tommy and Wilbur, his expression carefully neutral. He took in Tommy's wound. Wilbur still frantically trying to suppress the blood flow. Techno, Tommy breathed. Techno's jaw clenched. Go. He returned back to his enemy. No, Techno's jaw clenched. Go! He returned back to his enemy, his braid wiping in the wind. Most of the morning glories were gone. Take care of your brother, Wilbur. What? Tommy, let's go. Tommy, let's go, Wilbur said sharply. He began to pull Tommy over the mossy block he'd been standing on. He leaned Tommy against it and bent the task of securing the gash in Tommy's shoulder. Wilbur ripped the end of his red and blue coat and began wrapping it around Tommy's shoulder. I can't see, Wilbur. I can't see you, Wilbur, Tommy protested, staring to look beyond Wilbur's head. You don't need to see that, Wilbur insisted, grimmingly tightening the cloth around the wound. You don't want to see that. See what? Tommy demanded, his throat aching. When he started screaming. Wait, when had he started screaming? Wilbur, we need to help them. Wilbur, we need to help him. Before Wilbur could reply, there was a loud crack, like thunder, making them both flinch. Wilbur turned towards the sound, just enough for Tommy to catch the glimpse of the fighting over his shoulder. Just enough for him to see Technoblade raise the man up by his collar and driving straight into the ground, shattering the earth once more. Everything okay? Anyway. He was supposed to be dead, as Technoblade drove against the dirt with enough force to crack it. He knew the man should have died the first time around, but he didn't. Instead, he merely grinned up at Technoblade with bloody teeth. Hello? Oh my god, you scared me! Hello?
Okay. Look, I ain't no devil on the shoulder, but we're leaving now, so you guys
okay.
can take this. I bought it for you.
You bought it for me?
It's pink. It reminds me of you.
Aww. Thank you. Thank you.
Now.
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 Do I just chug it?
Now.
I never had something like that. Do I just chug it?
Yes, you chug it.
Why are you laughing?
Chug it, I say. Oh, so cute. I love that about you. You're the second one.
I'm not gonna...
No, not right now, but
okay.
when you catch up to us.
Thank you.
And then... I got this one too for you.
Thank you.
Because I don't want to piss in your mouth. Anyway.
Okay.
Alright.
Wait, so, what? You what?
And just join us when you're ready. Bye, love you.
Bye, love you too. Did she just say she wants to piss in my mouth? Okay.
Alright, boys, where are we going? What are we happening?
I just want to read my fan fiction. Do I need to help them? No, they're fine. They're fine, chat. Anyway. let's continue. Let's start from here again. I'm sure they're leaving soon. He was supposed to be dead. As Technoblade drove against the dirt with enough force to crack it, he knew the man should have died the first time around, but he didn't. Instead, he merely grinned up at Technoblade with bloody teeth, his face drawn in cold, and too much of Technoblade's charring completely earned arrogance. Ah, I see, Technoblade said with his hand around the man's throat. What's a god of war doing in a place like this? I would state the obvious, the man calmly gesturing to the bloodbath around them. But this is a purely personal affair. He kicked up, leading a hit on Techno's gut and launched him backwards. Techno's braced himself against the dirt, unwilling to give the war god any more ground. Tommy and Wilbur were somewhere behind him, and that was the reason Techno needed to pick up his trident again. The war god unsteadily to his feet. The war god unsteadily to his feet, and then seemed to merely shake himself off the experience of having his head cracked against the ground with the force of 20 rampaging bulls. He cracked the tension out of his neck and simply picked up his sword again. Now that we're properly acquainted, the war god said, let's take this somewhere seriously, shall we? He moved quicker than Techno expected. Techno barely managed to parry a blow aimed directly at his heart. Techno thrust out with his trident in retaliation, but the war god simply danced out of the way before returning again in full force. Techno took one of the knives from his bandolier and stabbed out, managing to nick the other god just barely before they clashed weapons again. Blow for blow, hit for hit. They could have gone on like this forever. A god of war and a god of blood. In another life, they might have been allies. Techno tried in vain to remember which of the many people he'd felled over the centuries had belonged to this man, but there was too many. A long line of ghosts he would spend the rest of his immortal life atoning for. Atoning? The voices laughed. What is there to atone for? Does a lion atone for killing a gazelle? Does a fire atone for burning? Techno jumped backwards and threw his knife, which the war god deflected easily with a sword. He threw another, which the war god dodged. Another, which stuck harmlessly into the earth. Techno reached for another and found his bandolier empty. This is futile, the war god said. Just put down your weapons and maybe I'll give you the merciful death you never gave them. You fight and you struggle. But we both know how this ends. Mortals and their bloody games. There can only be one outcome, right? The war isn't over, Technoblade. The war isn't over yet, Technoblade replied. The god of war smiled, his eyes drifting to something over Techno's shoulder. Are you sure about that? Techno looked behind him, his eyes finding Tommy and Wilbur first, crouched underneath a rock. Techno could not bring himself to linger on the look of fear on Tommy's face as he stared back at him, and he continued searching the horizon for what had caught the war of God's eyes. His heart, what remained of it, sunk. He took in the thousands of enemy reinforcements flooding into the Blue Valley. Tabo stood in the knee-depth waters of the river that cut through the valley. Once clear, it now ran red with blood. Friend or foe, it didn't seem to matter. They all bled the same. The river's current was tugging at him. It's all right, it seemed to say. You can let go. And Tabo wanted to, By gods, he wanted to. More than anything. His quiver was empty of arrows. He lost his bow and sword in the chaos. All he had now was a dagger. Its blade no longer than his hand, just as frail. His body felt like it had been fighting for weeks, but a glaze at the sun, high overhead, told him that it had only been hours. Hours of senselessly slaughtering his way through the fray. It was better when he still had arrows, when he could stand and shoot at distant enemies without thinking of them as people. When he resorted to using a sword, he'd gotten close enough to see the fear in their eyes as his blade pierced through the cloth and skin. When the blood had colored him crimson, it was suddenly, frighteningly real. Once, he had wanted to see the enemies burn. Now, he just wanted it to be over. Tabo looked up at the sound of shouting before him. Enemies were running through the wall of flames, cutting through the fire like one after the other in an unending tide. The words reinforcements and too many and retreat echoed in Tabo's ears as the breath was knocked out of him. He tightened his grip on his dagger as the enemy reinforcements advanced, cutting down people who were too weak, too inexperienced, too tired to fight, people like Tabo. They drew closer, an infinite army. Tabo felt bile rise in his throat. Too many. He felt hot tears slipping down his cheeks. Too many. He felt his fear and dread like physical weight, almost driving him to his knees. Too many. In the end, Tabo was not a hero, but he raised his dagger away. He raised his dagger anyway. It's over, Tommy whispered. He leaned against his brother as they both looked over the valley at the enemies descending upon their army like a swarm of hawks. The pain in his shoulder was now a distant worry. It wouldn't kill him, but he knew death was coming for him regardless. We're fucked. Wilbur was very still. Wilbur, Tommy turned to his brother. You know I love you, right? The king gave him a sharp look. What the hell are you talking about? Tommy swallowed thickly, trying and failing to keep the tears in. I love you. I don't think I ever said it, but it's true. I figured it's my last chance. This is not your last chance, Wilbur snapped, his eyes darkening. He whirled around facing Technoblade, who still stood between them and the mysterious soldier. Techno! Techno blazed back at Wilbur, his expression shuttered. He did not look at Tommy. It's time, Wilbur called out. For a moment, Techno started, and then slowly, deliberately, he nodded. I'm sorry, Wilbur. What? Tommy demanded. What are you talking about? Wilbur did not reply. He wasn't even listening. Tommy could only watch as Wilbur unhooked a blowing horn from his side. He put it up to his lips, mercenarily, his eyes blank and staring at nothing at all. Wilbur, Tommy begged. Wilbur, what's going on? Wilbur blew the horn. She heard it. They all did. Hats snapped up at the sound of a war horn echoing through the valley. A low, sad sound like the beginnings of a funeral dirge, or the cry of a lone bird separated from its flock. The flower shopkeeper met the eyes of a woman across the field. A stranger, only familiar from brief, inconsequential meetings at the camp. But in that moment, they were kindred spirits, united in their determination. The shopkeeper nodded. The woman gave her a solemn salute. It was only now or never. The shopkeeper gazed at the oncoming horde of enemies, butchering all that stood in their way. But the royal army was not fighting anymore. No, They were running. They threw down the weapons and ran back in the direction of the hill, stumbling over weeds and irises and rains of morning glories. The Green Army, outnumbering them 10 to 1, gave chase, unaware of what was coming. The shopkeeper took off, the rock of her pocket seeming to grow heavier with every step. The rock in her pocket. But unlike the others, she was headed north, up one of the craggy mountains that bothered the valley. She knew the ones, at least those who weren't dead already, but she headed towards the other mountain, crashing through the trees and underbrush as she was. There were 50 of them in total, but only 2 of them were really needed for the job. If you lose heart, the king said during the midnight meeting, they'd lay out his plans to volunteers. Just make sure someone else still has theirs. This is last resort, but it might also be our only choice. Hello. Bye. Thanks. He told them they were free to leave. None of them had. The rest of camp had all been told 2 things. When you hear the horn, run for your life, and don't tell Prince Tommy. The shopkeeper bounded over the boulders and overgrowth, the heartbeat thundering in her ears. Hey! She risked a glance back and found the Green Army soldier running after her. They were less used to the terrain as she was. She'd walked this path 1,000,000 times over the past week, but they were gaining on her quick, the swords raised and ready. The shopkeeper kept running, but her knees were screaming, her lungs on the verge of collapse. She was tired. So tired. A yell came from behind her. She tried to ignore it until it came again. She glanced behind her once, stopping dead in her tracks when she realized that what was happening. One of the enemy soldiers was on the ground, a small dagger embedded into the nape of his neck. The other 2 were doubling back, facing the attacker that must have followed them up to the forest. She caught sight of brown hair, a small frame. Oh gods. It was the boy who'd lied his way into the army and had fought bravely in it until the very end. The shopkeeper gazed behind her to the cave where the main objective was. She was so close. But the boy she saw was unarmed. The decision was already made. She ran back down the mountain, her axe in her hand. The soldiers had cornered the boy against a tree, their blades ready to cut his life at 17 years. But that meant that their backs were to her, and they never saw her coming. Just pretend you're chopping down a tree. The general had taught them during their training phase at the castle. The axe will get the job done, but it'll take a few swings. It only took her 2. One through the neck, and the other into the skull. The 2 soldiers dropped dead at her feet. The boy stared up at her, breathing heavily, his face streaked with blood and dirt. It looked as if he had aged 50 years in a day. The shopkeeper no longer recognized the young, foolhardy boy who'd run around camp doing the most menial chores, grinning from ear to ear, taking pride in being part of something bigger than himself. He was battered and bruised and bleeding, with eyes so haunted the shopkeeper couldn't help but wonder about all the things he'd seen since the sun rose over the battlefield. What has the world done to you? She thought, but all she said was, "Are you all right?" The boy could only nod wordlessly. You need to get out of here, she hurried, already hearing more soldiers coming to the mountain. Here, take this. She shoved the axe into his hand. The boy shook his head vigorously. "I can't," he cloaked. You need to protect yourself. She gave him a bitter smile. "Trust me, kid. You need it more than I do. Now go. You know your orders. Back to the camp. Follow the sun." Before she could think better of it, she pulled the boy into her arms, hugging him tightly for a moment. He could only stand listless surprise, and then she felt his arms close around her. He buried his head into her shoulder and let out a single, gut-wrenching sob. When the shopkeeper let go, there was a new spark in the boy's eyes, faint, but better than nothing. The boy turned to go, but lingered at the tree line. "What's your name?" he asked. "Niki," she said. "My name's Niki." "I see you later, Niki," the boy said, and was gone. She started after him for a while, her heart feeling lighter in the way she could not explain. But when a twig broke in the distance, heralding the arrival of the enemy troops, the shopkeeper steeled herself at one last minute and headed for the cave. Inside, stacked from one end of the cave to the other, connected to natural underground caverns that ran the length of the mountain, was the king's last resort, the only thing that stood between their kingdom and the certain doom. "We will see our enemies burning," the king had promised. The king had promised them on that first day, lifetimes ago. It wasn't exactly burning, but blowing them to kingdom come was an acceptable compromise. The flint was in her hand, and all she could smell was sulfur and the distant scent of irises. Her purses were at the mouth of the cave, screaming as they realized what she was about to do. They might have begged. She would never know. "I'll see you all in hell," she said bitterly, and stuck the flint into flame. At the summit of the opposite mountain in the cave, almost identical, the captain did the same. "For my kingdom," she whispered to the enemy cave, and let the fire fall. Niki hoped, at the very last, that they would plant the prettiest flowers over her grave. The explosion rocked the world. It rattled the very sun from its loyal orbit. Wilbur braced himself against the rock he'd once stood fearlessly on and watched the mountains fall. Yes, the voices choruses. This was always meant to be. Wilbur had been there before. He dreamed it. He'd lived it. As an avalanche of rocks and earth cascaded into the valley, crushing anyone unfortunate enough to be left behind. Friend or foe, Wilbur felt a tug of familiarity at his core. His ears wrung from the violence of it all. The voices, the screaming, the blast that went on and on and on. The flocks of birds soared up into the sky, disturbed from their perches. They were the only survivors. When the dust settled, all Wilbur could see was a pile of devastation where the blue valley used to be. Their enemies crushed by the thousands or buried alive on Wilbur's orders, and their allies. Wilbur bent over the ground and vomited. Wilbur! Wilbur's ears were still ringing. He heaved the last of his stomach's contents, coughing up blood and spittle. There was no end to it. Wilbur! Wilbur turned, almost afraid of what he would find behind him. Tommy, his face pale, his eyes wide and staring, as if he had never seen Wilbur before. "Tommy," Wilbur croaked, "stop looking at me like that. Look away, look away, look away." "What?" Tommy's voice was so small. "What the fuck did you just do?" "What the fuck did he do?" the war god demanded. "Oh, what the fuck did he do?" the war god demanded. He tried moving towards the king and the prince, but Techno was there, forever blocking his way. "Don't take another step." Techno raised his trident. Its prongs aimed towards the war god's chest. "Your army is gone. There's nothing left to fight for. You bastard!" The god growled, his obsidian sword trembling in his grip. "You think this hurts me? I died years ago." Techno took a deep breath. His hands still reeked of sulfur. "Come then," he said exhaustedly. "Blood for the blood god. I shall kill you again." The war god jumped towards him, starting the circle anew. "You said no more secrets." Tommy's nails dug bloody crescents into his palm. "You promised, Wilbur." They were all dead. They were all dead. Because of the man that Tommy couldn't bear to call his brother. He wanted to dig his skin and rip out every part that was Wilbur's. He wanted to gut himself, tear it all apart from the inside out. If that was what it took to get rid of the screaming in his head. Wilbur wasn't meeting his eyes. Tommy marched up to him and grabbed him roughly by the collar. "Fucking look at me, you piece of shit!" Tommy screamed. The ground was still shaking, or maybe it was just him. Hot tears spilled down his cheek, tears of rage too big for his body. "How long have you been planning this? What was it from the beginning? Did you look our people in the eyes and never bother telling them you were leading him into the slaughterhouse?" "Some of them had to have survived," Wilbur whispered, his words almost lost in the winds. "I warned them." Tommy shook him violently. "That's not the fucking point," he sobbed. Wilbur finally looked at him, but there was nothing behind his dark eyes. "I did what I had to do, Tommy," was all he said. Tommy shoved him viciously away. His hands felt dirty. He felt unclean. In his head, he could still hear the stings of a violent guitar playing over the soft laughter of soldiers that were now simply gone. Gone in a flash, between one breath and the next. It had come so easy to Wilbur. Could it have come easy to Tommy too? "You fucked up," Tommy spat. "You fucked up, Wilbur." Wilbur reached out of him, but Tommy flinched back. "Don't fucking touch me." In battle, when two opponents were evenly matched in strength and wisdom and anger, it would only take one thing to bring it all down. One soldier, one mistake, one move. The war god had seen his fair share of battles, and had won all of them except one. The only battle to matter, and he'd lost everything, because a blood god had decided to throw his lot in with the opposite. Because a blood god had decided to throw in his lot with the opposing forces. One soldier. Afterwards, the war had dragged himself through the battlefield, his throat burning from screaming, his lover's name into the quiet sky. He'd found him. The war god had crawled towards his broken body, curling around it, as if he could somehow warm it back to life. And he had stayed there for years, letting the moss and the weeds grow over the two of them. He would have stayed there forever, beside the carcass rotted down to the bones. But a fire had grown inside him, a fire that would not be satiated until he had the head of the god that had taken everything from him. Now here he was, facing off against the very culprit. It was a bloody dance. The war god got slashed, and the blood got parried, and the blood god lunged, and the war god ducked, and the push and the pull and the tides, drawn to each other by a gravity of violence. But all the war god needed, he knew, was a single chance. He would not waste it. "Don't fucking touch me!" The words were high-pitched, shriek of a frightened child, a similar sound on a battlefield, extinguishable from every screen that came before it. But the blood god turned towards it, leaving his defenses completely open. One mistake. The war god raised his sword above his head. It was very difficult to kill a god, but not impossible. In the right hands, like the hands of a warrior, with fire in his heart and carnage in his smile, it would only take one blow. "Goodbye, blood god," he thought. "My vengeance is complete." Technoblade turned instinctively at Tommy's scream, but just in time to see Tommy draw back from Wilbur's reaching hands. Pain flashed across Wilbur's face, but he was otherwise unscathed. Both of them were safe. No knives in their backs, no arrows around their throat. A shadow fell over Technoblade, and by the time he remembered where he was, it was too late. Technoblade turned and faced the tip of a bloody sword, a breath away from his face. But it was not the war god's obsidian blade, coming to reap his soul. It was a familiar, silver broadsword, pierced right through the war god's chest. Technoblade could only stare as war god looked down the blade, embedded straight through his heart. His sword arm still raised in what would have been a kill blow. Instead, the obsidian sword fell harmlessly out of his limb hold and onto the dirt, and the war god followed close behind. Behind him stood a winged man, his golden hair catching the rays of the setting sun. "No," the voices screamed. "Not you! Not you! Not you!" "Hello, Techno," Filza said. Uber saw him first. Perhaps that was how it was always meant to be. Some part of him would always unfrankly be looking for him. Tommy followed a beat later. Uber saw his brother's shoulders go slack, like a marionette with his strings suddenly cut. Dad? Their father was standing before Techno and the unmoving body of the white-cloaked soldier. At the sound of Tommy's voice, he turned and looked at his son for the first time in a decade. And so he enters the scene once more. The voices whispered. And before Wilbur could say anything, Tommy was already running. One move. That was all it would take. On the ground beside him was one of the blood god's throwing knives. Lost during the battle, with the last of his strength, he curled his fingers around the hilt. His loaf was calling him home. He couldn't hear it in the warm wind, but he could not face him before he was avenged. And so, with all he had left, the war god aimed and threw. Dad! His father was here, his dad, standing among the blue irises, the same shade as his sad eyes. The years fell away like smoke, and Tommy was a boy again. There was no explosion, there was no war, there was no leaving, there was only a son and his father. Tommy felt a hysterical laugh bubble out of him as he ran. Even as his cheeks still stung with tears, there was everything. There was confusion, there was grief, there was anger, there was relief, there was disbelief, there was joy. "Dad!" Tommy shouted, spreading his arms wide as he ran like a bird about to take flight. "Tommy!" Dad's smile was still the same. After all these years, he opened his arms, welcoming Tommy into an embrace. "My boy, you've grown so much." And then there was pain. The knife found its mark in the prince's heart. Techno watched Tommy fall backwards, impossibly slow. It took a moment for the reality to sink in, and then Wilbur was screaming so loud it drowned out everything else, even the voices that began screeching inside Techno's head. "Tommy!" Filza shouted, running towards Tommy's unmoving body, but Wilbur was already here. Cuddling his brother into his chest, Techno could only watch, utterly numb, utterly cold, utterly lost inside his own head. No. This could not be happening. It was over. He'd done everything he could to protect them, to protect Tommy. Why was this still how it ended? "That's what it feels," someone gasped. "To lose everything." By the time Techno turned towards the war god, ready to rip him limb from fucking limb, he was dead. A smile on his face. "Fuck you," Techno thought furiously. "Fuck you! Techno!" Wilbur's scream brought him violently back into his body with the force of a comet crashing into Earth. "Help me!" Techno staggered towards them, his blood as heavy as lead, his vision hazy, but he could see the one thing that mattered. His Tommy, laying so still in his brother's arms. His Tommy, who braided his hair with sweet-smelling flowers. His Tommy, who was so quick to anger but quicker to laugh. His Tommy. The sun was setting over the blue valley. There was a terrible, terrible silence. The kind of silence that always came before something devastating. The calm before the storm. Tommy had always hated silences. It gave his mind too many spaces to fill with darkness, so he brought light instead. Noise and laughter and jokes and jibs, anything to keep the quiet at bay. Wilbur had helped with the weight, like he promised, but now it was back, pressing against Tommy's chest, suffocating him under his burden. There was pain, so much pain. He thought he'd already felt pain, but what did he truly know? He was only 15. Tommy felt himself lifted into someone's arms, the arms of a man that snuffed out the lives of 2 armies in one fell swoop. Tommy wanted to push him away again, to spit his anger and his disgust to the... but he was too weak to do either. He could only lie there, staring up at his brother's face, twisted with anguish. His mouth was moving, speaking towards Tommy, speaking words Tommy could barely hear. Let me go, Tommy wanted to cry. Give me back to the ground. But then Wilbur started humming. It was a song. The song. The song Tommy had been humming just this morning, lifetimes ago. What? Tommy breathed, the rest of the question dying on his lips. He couldn't keep his eyes open. He should. He knew he should. Because otherwise he'd be... Your lullaby, Wilbur sobbed, his tears hitting Tommy's cheeks. It's the lullaby I used to play for you on my guitar when you were younger. And just like that, everything that came before was forgiven and forgotten and gone. But was that such a bad thing? Rest would be nice. If it means his lungs would stop hurting, if it means his chest would stop aching. Sleep. Sleep was good. Sleep was... I miss your music, Wilbur. Tommy could feel someone stroking back his hair so gently, so lovingly. Keep your eyes open, Tommy. Techno. Keep your God's named eyes open. Bad. He needed to be kept awake. He needed to keep awake. Techno was telling him to, and Tommy always did what Techno said, because Techno was his tutor, his teacher, his brother. I would have... Tommy coughed. He felt blood tickle down his jaw, and then nothing at all. I would have liked to hear you play together again. Tommy hold him tightened. Somewhere far away, someone was screaming for a medic, and Tommy knew. Tommy knew it was. We'll play for you, Techno vowed. When we get home, we'll play for you as many times as you want, Tommy. I'll let you beat me when we spare. I'll let you braid my hair or even cut it all off if you want to. Anything you want. Just keep your eyes open. A shadow fell over them in the shape of wings that Tommy had only seen once before, when he had flown out of Tommy's bedroom window and out of their lives forever. Or not forever. Tommy tried to raise his head to see his father's face, but the pain was too much. Dad, Tommy whispered. He still wanted to do so much. He still wanted to scream at Wilbur and then embrace him. He still wanted to find flowers for Techno's hair. He still wanted to go home to the kingdom that I had protected. He still wanted to hug his dad. But darkness was quickly gathering. Tommy? Tommy had no idea who had said this name. It all sounded very far away. Don't leave me, Tommy begged. Please. I'm so scared. Sorry, chat. I'm back. We heard Tommy, a kiss on his forehead, someone holding his hand, strong arms around him, Wilbur humming his old lullaby, warmth, even in the dark. We'll always be here. Too late. Thank you, Tommy breathed. Thank you, He had so much left to say, so much left to offer. Love, forgiveness, cheer, but he would leave it there until he woke up again. Tommy's eyes drifted shut. His mother's laughter had never sounded clearer. Somewhere in the distance, the green god began to smile. Dun dun dun! Are you okay, chat? Are you okay, chat? That was chapter 4. No, you're not okay. Oh, chat. Oh, it's okay, chat. How many chapters are there? How many chapters are there? 7? Okay. There's just a 7.6k words of chapter. Okay. We'll read the rest next time. Because I still promised you that we're playing Beyond Two Souls. So we're reading the rest next time. Oh, Chan, it's okay. How am I not crying? I find it easier to cry to visuals than to just reading. And also I focus very, very hard on reading and to like bringing across like the voices and the tone as good as I can. So I think that makes me like able to not cry about it. But it's definitely very sad. It's very good. It's a very good story. I like it a lot. But yeah, I think because I'm focusing so hard on like bringing across the voices and the tone, which I hope I'm doing all right. I know I'm stuttering a lot here and there, but that helps me not to cry. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start Beyond Two Souls now. Oh no, my monitor is about to turn off. There we go. Doing amazing, thank you, chat. Let me be Beyond Two Souls. Let me start Beyond Two Souls. Oh yeah, we can turn off the music now too. I started looping one of the songs as you probably heard, because I thought it was like really fitting. Mods, are you able to change the game or do you want me to change the game? What are the mods saying? Let me try, but not sure. Okay, I can change it otherwise. I'll just change it. I'll just change it. Chat. Mods, it's fine. I'll change it. Is the game for free? No, it's not. Alright, I changed it. Alright, let's continue, chat. I don't quite remember which chapter we're on, but we'll see. The dinner. Ooh, it's okay. The dinner is after Welcome to the CIA and after the embassy. Turn it down. Is it too loud? Yes, I'll turn it down. And I think I do remember it. So let's start it. Can we take a break, please? Do you guys need a break? I mean, you don't have to. You can just listen now, chat. You can just listen now. Okay? We don't have. It's fine. It's fine, chat. You don't have to focus on sad story now. You can just focus on video game now. Okay. Okay. 5-minute break so we can get snacks and water. I feel like 5 minutes is a little bit much. We can do a short break before we continue the game if you need a break to get snacks and water. Yeah, sure. Let's say we're gonna start the game. I can't play ads because I'm not partnered on this account, so I can't play ads. But we're gonna start in 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes, chat. For me, 2 a.m. So on the dot, we'll be back. So go get your snacks and water now. Go get your snacks and water. I'm not tired. I'm alright. I'm drinking energy drink. Fine.
Hi,
Thank
Niki.
you.
I wrote a song about the Dream SMP and you are in it.
Oh!
I'd love for you to see it. Just search I wrote a song about the Dream SMP.
We can do that now.
Love you.
I wrote a song about the Dream SMP. It's this one, okay. And we can watch that and then we'll go back to the game.
It's just a game.
My whole life is just a game, isn't it, George?
It started with a dream, and that was all it needed. To some it's just a joke, but they don't know. And it's okay.
You have really good vocals.
All kinds
Wow.
of names. You wouldn't want such dumb fans anyway.
Aww.
Never meant to be.
So just know.
Oh, hi, Larry. Oh, hi, Mark.
We're not alone.
I've got you a woman. Bad news, she's American.
Oh no.
Ladies and gents, I am a simp. Loud and proud.
When we're together, this is so much more than what we've seen before. I mean, it's so
I watched the saddest. Wait. I watched the saddest Passerine animatic after we finished reading Passerine because I feel like that will make it more emotional.
Just killed a woman. Feeling good.
kidding, but what am I supposed to do? But sit here on YouTube and I feel like I'm gonna
This is so cute.
I got 20 hours of screen time. Nobody
Oh, no.
switches on
You would cry because of, you know, Minecraft roleplay. You really think about where you've gone in life.
And techno's blocked with
I want a bell. Give
dreams.
me a bell.
Techno!
Give me a bell.
And there's conspiracies. I love beans.
Is there conspiracy? Is it Dream SMP conspiracy theories?
And all I know is Sapnap George, an awesome dude. Punk Puns, Puffy, and Purple too. Tommy in it, Bad Boy Halo. Eric Bondi, Wilbur, Niki, and Tabo. Skeppy Jack, and Quackity. Techno Blake, and that bell he needs. Connor fills a foolish.
I love that the bell is included. That's good.
Rambo, each mom signs the cool and it's Brooks. And don't you think I forgot the man, our main character? Let's give him a hand. Boys and girls, won't you take a stand for the one, the only?
Callahan.
But for real though.
This is so much more.
This always makes me so emotional. Cause this was so sweet. This was such a good weekend. Or like, I don't even know if it was a weekend, but these were such a good few amount of days. Oh no, I'm gonna get emotional. Oh my god. I'm gonna, not just about that, but just like, I am part of this. I'm part of this, chat. And that is so crazy. Because this is such a, oh my god.
We've seen before. I mean, it's so much war, but at least it's better than what's going on the outside world right
It's so
now.
crazy.
This is the internet. It's not that serious, but Tommy's traumatized and dreams in prison despised, and George is still at home asleep, and Callahan still doesn't speak, and then there's Sam and Quackity. They don't know about that dream XD, and though it could have gone so well, Techno wish for a bell. So I'll sit here on YouTube with you.
Go outside and chunk it.
Sit here on YouTube with you. Sit here on YouTube with you. I'll just sit here on YouTube with
Everything's just a joke to you, isn't it, George?
I love it. That was great.
First one to
Oh,
actually watch it. Thank you so much.
no,
I am crying. Thank you.
that was
I
great.
spent so much
Genuinely.
time on it.
I can see that. And I think it's amazing. And it makes me very emotional in a good way. Holy shit. I know I say this a lot, chat. And you're probably so sick of hearing it. But I love you so much. Like, I genuinely do. You as a community. I know I don't know any single one of you. And, you know, whatever. But especially, I feel like especially my community, I don't know about the other communities, but you're just so sweet. You are so sweet, and I don't know what I deserve it, like how I deserve this, because I'm just sitting here playing my stupid games, you know? But I feel like, I don't know, I just feel so thankful to be a part of this and to have this as my job and to
Nikki, we love you more than you know. Thank you for being absolutely amazing. 33
like, this is my
chat
alt
logs
account, right? And we know that alt accounts are meant for, like, you know, the tighter community, because, you know, not everyone knows about my alt account. Like, I feel like every single time I mention my alt account, someone asks me what is my alt account. And, like, I feel like especially even here, it's like, thank you for giving a shit about me, about this random 19-year-old sitting at home, you know, talking to a camera and a microphone. Every time I go out on the streets and I get recognized, I'm so baffled by it. I'm so baffled by it because I'm like, I'm just I'm just me, you know? I'm just trying to live my life as much as everyone else. And stuff like this makes me realize that I am part of something so cool. This is so cool. If I told my younger self that this is gonna be my job and this is gonna be what I'm doing with my life, I would be so happy. I feel like with this and with what I'm doing, I'm making my younger self
SMP members to watch my video all week
happy.
long, and
Like
you are the first to actually watch
I'm
it,
showing
and this
her
is just
and I'm
so amazing.
proving
I
to
love you
her
so much.
that it does get better.
Thank you. I love you.
And I could not have done this without you.
We love you.
Without
Niki
every
too.
single one of you. Because as insignificant as you might feel, you're another view. And you're another person. And you're there, and I see you. Fucking hell.
Niki, just as much as you feel like we're there for you, we feel like you're there for us. I can't name the amount of times you made me smile and laugh when I was upset and going through stuff.
I'm so glad about
We love
that.
you and appreciate you so much.
Like, as much as it is you yourself, that actively clicks on a stream because they want to feel better and they want to forget about their lives, I am so thankful that you choose me and that you choose my stream, because you could choose anyone. Like, who's live right now? I don't follow people. Hassan's live, Puffy's
We
live,
love you, Niki TM, my heart.
Shabla's live, MZ's live, Foolish's live. Like, all these people are live, but you choose me and you choose my stream. And I know that, and I see that, and I appreciate that. Anyway, let's play some Beyond Two Souls.
Niki, please don't do this. I've heard you say all this before and I know you mean it, but it's hard to see this get you emotional. You worked hard for this, so you deserve everything you've got. You know I mean that.
Never mind. Minx is very, very drunk, and I should take care of her. So I'm not gonna play Beyond the Souls. I'm gonna take care of Minx. I hope that's okay. I'm sorry, chat. Sorry to leave you now, but I have to. I have to take care of my friend. We're gonna go ahead and raid Puffy. Let's raid Puffy, chat. I'll be back tomorrow on my main account, and we'll play Beyond Two Souls next week. I hope you still enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry I was so emotional. Such an emotional stream. Oh my god. Hope you're okay, chat. I hope you are having a wonderful morning, evening, or day wherever you are. And I will see you in the next one.
Niki, you make me so happy anytime you go live or post something.
you.
We love you also. Bye, and I hope Minx is okay.
She's fine. I'm just gonna take care of her.